Wherever it is you are watching us from, good morning, good afternoon, and good evening. We're glad to have you here with us. For those who did not join us from the very beginning, I'll give a quick recap before we eventually sink our teeth in the bite of this meat that we are trying to eat today. My name is Bernard Akede. You're welcome to say hey. Thank you so much. And this is New Central Town Hall Series. Now, the Town Hall Series was given birth to because of certain issues that have been springing up in Nigeria. I'll quickly run through that. We've had the Town Hall Series in Lagos, when buildings were demolished around Jakonde. We had another one in Lagos Island, where there was a fire, and those who suffered losses were crying out to the government. We've also
Recording
been in
progress.
We've also been in Jos concerning the killings. Around there, we were able to have government officials under the same roof with people from different communities, and they were able to cry out to the government. We also went to Delta State Okwama community, where you may have heard there were some soldiers who apparently were killed, allegedly, by indigenes of the community. What happened after that was that some soldiers came back and allegedly razed the entire community down, rendering people homeless. And apparently we heard that some people even lost their lives. What happened after that was that some soldiers came back and allegedly razed the entire community down, rendering people homeless. And apparently we heard that some people even lost their lives. So yes, after Okwama, we went to Abuja, federal capital, and this one was not strange to anybody. Most recently, there was a protest in Nigeria, we do remember, End Bad Governance protest.
So yes, after
television
Okwama,
was.
we went to Abuja.
So we were at the protest, we were at the forefront of the protest, bringing live, up-to-date reports. Unfortunately, part of what we were complaining about is the things that we saw. A good number of our journalists, including myself, were harassed and attacked physically and assaulted by anti-protest protesters. That was the thing. There were those who were protesting, and there were those who were protesting against the protesters. You may have seen some of the clips where we were attacked with shovels and sticks and stuff. And so it's this kind of conversation that's bringing us here today. Now we want to talk about why Nigerians in the diaspora can have their money speak in the country, but cannot have their voices speak for them, and why they cannot vote. But without much ado, or without further ado, I'd like to call forward our Managing Director and Editor-in-Chief to set the ball rolling. His name is Mr. Kayode Akintemi, and he's the one who actually spearheaded and kickstarted the entire News Central Town Hall series. He'll give us a few words about who News Central is and what we do. Thank you very much. Hello.
Thank you very much, Bernard. Good morning, New York. Good morning, United States of America. Good morning, Nigeria, or it's afternoon in Nigeria at the moment. And we say good afternoon, and whatever time it is in your part of the world, we say thank you for joining us. So this is an initiative that I thought was absolutely essential because I didn't want News Central to be like any other Nigerian television station. I have a passion for developmental journalism. I have been extremely passionate about changing society, working on projects that will help to enhance the development of the community, the nation, and people where I am covering as a journalist. But I haven't had that opportunity to do it the way I would have loved to do it. But now that I'm with News Central, I said we had to have our finger on the pulse of the nation. We have to know what people think and feel. If people are crying, they're hungry, we don't want to report it. We want them to speak out on our platform. This platform has got to be the platform for the people. It's got to be one where whatever the people feel, the government and those in authority that can create the change, they are aware and they know and they can see it. They're not being told by a journalist. They're seeing it real time as it's happening. Like Bernard, my colleague, had said, we've covered several in the series of town hall meeting. As far as I'm concerned, it doesn't matter how anybody else feels. What is most important to us is how Nigerians feel. And one of the things that we're very passionate about, I'm not turning my back on you, actually, it is somewhere here, but also we have it on the back of all our shirts, which we wear very proudly. Africa first. We care about the continent. The sessions that we have had here in New York at the United Nations General Assembly, we've been at the SDG Media Zone, we've seen a lot of things that made us think we cannot keep quiet about the continent. We saw the First Lady, I was in a session that I moderated, and we had the First Lady of Sierra Leone saying that Sierra Leone is one of the few, I'm not sure if there is another one, where they have actually banned child marriage. It is now illegal. And they said that they started by saying that if you have any sex with any underage, it will be considered as rape. And that is extremely important in our part of the world, where the girl child are not given the opportunity that they deserve. The ladies and the women are not given the opportunity that they deserve. They deserve it. It should be a given. It's not something that should be questioned. So we will be going to Sierra Leone at some point. We will be going to Sudan. The story of Sudan is extremely, grossly underreported. In fact, it looks like the rest of the world has left Africa behind. And they do not care what happens to our continent. So who's going to care? It's going to be our responsibility as Africans, especially as Nigerians. I've got my dear sister who will be speaking shortly, and we'll be talking about a project that I'm also involved in, but it's her initiative. And it is one that we really have to pay attention to our continent by every means possible. We cannot ignore it. So News Central is a news television station whose primary focus is to make sure that we put out the information as the people feel and without fear or favor. We will focus on investigative journalism. Community development initiatives is one of the things that we're looking to do. We're happy to stand out by reporting fearlessly anything that we see. We do not care whose ox is gored. We just want to make sure that that message gets out in terms of what is a major issue for our people. Our Town Hall series is one of our signature projects across the world. We take critical issues and go to various locations in Nigeria at the moment, but this is the first international. We'll be taking it around Africa as well. We'll go to other parts of the world. Wherever Africans are, we will be happy to go there and bring out the issues, not just Nigerians, but like all things that the people behind it have some common sense and understanding. You have to have your roots first. Nigeria is that place where we're planting the root of News Central. So that means that that root has got to be able to tap into water, get enough water from the roots, and then it's able to spread and have fruits across the continent and around the world as it relates to Nigerians and indeed Africans all around the world. So I will say thank you very much for coming, and we're sure a lot of other people will be joining us shortly. We shouldn't be having any other time other than the right time that everybody should be joining. So there's no such thing as Nigerian time. We've held back for a few minutes in the hope that we'll have more people who are already on their way from the conversation we've had with them. But we will progress with this. And thank you very much. I guess you have the mic. As we say online, I yield the microphone, or I yield the floor to you. Bernard.
Very much, sir. He's just being modest. He has a mic too. Thank you very much. We'll go straight to the conversations without wasting much time. Like Mr. Kayode Akintemi said, there's room for more Nigerians to come in. There's also people who will be joining us online. We should be starting with one very prominent Nigerian who we know too well, who has been at the forefront of Nigerians in the diaspora. And I'm talking about Honorable Abike Dabiri-Erewa. She's the Executive Chairman, CEO, Nigerians in Diaspora. And she'll be talking about current status of diaspora voting legislation in Nigeria, infrastructural and logistical challenges. She's not joining us physically. She's in Abuja, the nation's capital. But we are going to give her some time. She will join us very soon. While we wait for her to join us, we already had her, we've seen her already. I would like to call on the lady, this very young lady who seated in front of me, whom I said earlier had the pleasure to speak to some years ago when she spoke in Pidgin. And of course, that's none other than Dr. Oby Ezekwesili. Now, can we please put our hands together for her? She come forward. Yes, so I did mention that we'll be having her. Dr. Oby Ezekwesili is the president of the Human Capital Africa and Senior Economic Advisors, that's AEDPI. For the next few minutes, Dr. Oby will be speaking on the rights and responsibilities, the imperative of voting for Nigerians abroad. I'd like to state quickly as she comes forward that I met a Benin driver yesterday in the cab, and he says he doesn't even believe anything on news anymore. That if the people here in New York cannot contribute to national development in their countries, then why are we telling the news? Then why is their money coming back home? So I told him if he can watch, and by the way, he didn't speak good English, he spoke Yoruba. My Yoruba is very broken like, but I was able to communicate with him. And I told him if he can watch this, I would prove to him that there is still hope in Africa. We are getting there. We're not there, but we are getting there. Dr. Oby, you have the floor. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Thank you very much. It's very hard for New Yorkers to come to things like this on a Saturday morning. Am I correct? Yes, it's very hard. And so for those of you who were able to make it out here, thank you very much for being here. And to Kayode, I really have to congratulate you, your irrepressible nature in sort of driving the conversations. I think that sometimes we don't really get the import of conversations in society, and yet it is through conversations that ideas are generated. And as ideas flourish, we see the choices of people around decisions better informed. And there's no better group of people that can lead really important intellectual conversations like the one we're having today than people in the diaspora of America, from our country, Nigeria. And I start by saying to you that I have a mantra that in God I trust, but every other person must bring data. So I'd like to start off with data. Official records show, according to a research that was done about Nigerians who are in America, it says something of there being about 774,000 Nigerians in America. I think it's much more than that. 774,000 Nigerians in America. I think it's much more than that. I don't think this right eventually, so there's no problem. I'm going to keep quiet until it is fixed. I think it's much more than that. I don't think this right eventually. Frankly, we should applaud them for doing this. I mean, it's a bold and courageous move to transmit live, from New York this morning into Nigeria. There are many moving parts that can go wrong at any point in time, so not bad at all. Can we continue? Oh, excellent. Okay. So this data by American Community Survey says that, actually I was wrong earlier, that 712,294 residents of the USA as of 2022 were seen to be of Nigerian ancestry. I think it should be much more than that, but even if we worked with a number that is that close to 1 million, that's a significant population of Nigerians in one country. considering that our latest population data is about 227 million of us. And there are many countries around the face of the earth where you can find Nigerians. When you think of the number of Nigerians in Europe, the number of them in other parts of our continent, you then realize how significant this population is. Now, another piece of data that I'd like you to know is that in America, the first generation Nigerian Americans are super educated. Super educated. That's the way, it was actually stated in the literature that I was reading about this. 63% of first generation Nigerian immigrants in the United States are college educated. It's amazing. It says, in comparison, 40.1% of non-Hispanic whites have bachelor's degree or higher degrees. Compare that to 63%. All right? It says blacks of Asians and 19% of Hispanics. It's an incredible data to see that the larger concentration of educated ethnic immigrants in this country are Nigerians. That's an incredible record. And we know why. It's because the Nigerian is not wanting to be anything less than what they think, they can be, So you have this phrase where Nigerians say, he is whatever he thinks he is, So Nigerians are whatever they think they are. And so this data is interesting. Now look at the second generation of Nigerian Americans. In their own case, it says that they are more highly concentrated at the upper levels more than any other group. For example, among second generation Asian men, 7.3% obtain PhD or professional degrees compared to 14% for second generation Nigerian Americans. It's amazing. This kind of data don't usually make it to mainstream media. And so the assumption is often to associate Nigerians with an insignificant percentage that really bring bad rap, as they say, to us. But this is the kind of data that's so meaningful. And it says that the group of the highest level of educational attainment is second generation Nigerian American women. This piece of data really meant a lot to me when I read it. It says 71% have bachelor's or higher degrees compared to 68.2% for second generation Nigerian American men. So our women are actually more in number in getting higher levels of education in this country. This is important because just knowing that you have this profile of people out of our country, living in this country, similarly, that's what you find in Europe. That's what you find in the UK. That's what you find in some countries in Asia these days, more and more. And it's important for me because as one who had been in the field of international development, I can speak to the matter of the diaspora very well. First time that I did something about diaspora was when I was a student and then a staff of someone that some of you know, Professor Jeffrey Sachs, over at the Kennedy School of Government at Harvard. He was fascinated by the idea of so many African academics that he was beginning that were all over the US, even at that time, and this was talking about in the 90s. And so, as we began to think of Africa's poor growth and the necessity to tackle the capacity problem, he asked that we should organize an event for diaspora, top-level diaspora. And so I had to begin to find them across the United States. And about 20 of such came to have a meeting at Harvard in those 90s. That was my first effort on diaspora. And then my second journey in America, when I came back again and was vice president of the World Bank for Africa region in Washington, D.C., I basically said to our team, there is no way we can talk of improving development in Africa without the African diaspora. What has happened is that incentive to live at home went in the other direction. And so they voted with their feet and came out and are concentrated with their knowledge outside of Africa. If we do not take charge of or fully integrate the knowledge that they bring into our development process, we are not doing it right. And so I think it was 2007, 2008, we launched the diaspora program at the World Bank during my time there. And the rest, as they say, became history. Because within the field of international development, we suddenly saw a lot of effort and attention. We actually partnered with the Africa Union, which then named the diaspora the sixth region of the African continent. And then we decided to work with them on a diaspora institute within the programs of the Africa Union. So on the diaspora matter, it's not just intellectual for me. It is something that really goes to the heart of whether we can take action by taking advantage of the resources that they represent. And since I have said the word resources, I need to tell you that my frame of reference for solving any problem is that when people say we need resources to solve the problem, what do you think they immediately are thinking of? They are thinking of money. And that's the saddest thing you can do to yourself, to assume that the only resource that is important, if only I can get money, then my problem will be solved. That's not true. So I have a different way of looking at resources. There are three resources that you need in order to solve a development problem. Number one, you need partnership. Number two, you need knowledge. And then number three, you need money. So it's number one, partnership. Number two, knowledge, before money comes as a distant number three. So what do you think the diaspora represents? The diaspora represents these three resources I just spoke about. The diaspora is an incredible community of people with all kinds of partnerships, in the sense that for anyone, if I should look at the gentleman right in front of me, and I asked him, how many affiliations do you have institutionally and even on individual, personal, person-to-person, P2P, you would be surprised, the gamut. If I did a canvassing of your partnership profile, it would lead me to all kinds of organizations that would take Nigeria many years to be able to reach. But simply because of you, they are unlocked. So partnership is a huge resource that the diaspora of our continent bring to the matter of how we fix our problems. Partnership gives you leverage beyond anything you can do by yourself. There are institutions, there are organizations, there are communities within the United States that a single Nigerian who's lived here and amongst them will quicker open the doors to than the ambassador that we have sent to the United States. So understanding that makes us look at our diaspora entirely differently. And in the sense that you have just heard, that educational attainment and success, professional success, that Nigerian diaspora are at the top of it, you can then imagine the quality of partnerships that they can unlock for the country. Okay? The quality of the partnership they can unlock for the country. Then the second thing that I said is a resource is what? I want to be assured that you guys are awake. Because sometimes you can be speaking to an audience that is busy sleeping or thinking about cost of living. I know. So knowledge. Think of it. If the percentage we just saw that are attaining higher grades of education, minimum bachelor's, and then you see the profile of the attainment in higher degrees and PhDs and masters, that tells you the humongous reservoir of knowledge. You know, in solving problems of development, there's nothing more important than knowledge. Knowledge. The how to. When you see disparities in solving problems, the immediate thing you should consider is that one party figured out how to solve it, the other party is still struggling to figure out how to solve it. In between those two parties, what do we have? It's knowledge. It's the quotient of knowledge on which the two parties are operating. Now, if we have a diaspora community that is this educated, they are outside of home, what do you think we should do? We should recognize that we have this massive pool of knowledge and it should matter to us. We should organize it in the way that that knowledge is available. And, you know, we normally say that knowledge is fungible. Knowledge is fungible in the sense that, you know, you can move knowledge of how you solve the particular problem into solving another problem. The fungibility of knowledge gives you such incredible possibilities. And for us as a continent, understanding that, as a country, Nigeria, understanding that means that we would be unrestricted in the way that we are adopting knowledge from our diaspora. And then the third thing, finance. On the finance thing, we go to data again. Data shows that averagely over the last decade, at least $21 to $22 billion per annum is taken into Nigeria as diaspora money. Even though a lot of it goes to being social protection, as in social safety net for the families you left at home. But imagine that there were a design system that converts that money into part investment and part consumption for the families. That would be massive. Now, $21 to $22 billion per annum, what they represent is almost 9 times foreign direct investment into Nigeria. So you're the real investors, if that is to be so called. And then it represents almost 60%, maybe 50 now, of the total government revenue. I hope you know that Nigeria's total government revenue annually is anything between $30 billion to $40 billion. So this is significant to be receiving that kind of money, from the diaspora. It also is indicative of what is possible. Now, you've got partnerships, you've got knowledge, you've got massive injection of money into the economy of Nigeria, but you don't have voice. Because that's what we've come to discuss. The fact that you've got these three things, but you don't have voice. You don't have voice in terms of the constitutional right of a citizen to vote in a democracy. Many countries solved that problem by simply saying the fact that our diaspora have decided that they want to continue to maintain relationship with home is a sufficient basis to consider them people who should have the right to vote. Now, why is it especially important for you to have the right to vote? Your level of educational attainment is important for improving the quality of democracy and the democratic practices. When the diaspora with this level of education and the level of exposure, I know the American democracy is currently struggling, but there are things that the American democracy succeeded in achieving that are still almost unattainable for us. And yet, you know those things. So with your voice, with the power to vote, and the necessity of you voting and demanding accountability, our democracy begins to mature. To disengage you from that process of determining governance in the country is really self-defeating. We cannot self-sabotage ourselves by simply saying, you've left the country, goodbye. Face the country you have embraced. No, there can be two worlds in which you operate. And many countries that have enacted diaspora rights to vote did it on that simple understanding that there is value to voting rights by their diaspora. The effort that has been made, as a matter of fact, Mrs. Abike Dabiri-Erewa, I think I got that last one. Erewa, I knew it wasn't your Erewa. She was very phenomenal on the matter of diaspora voting when she was a member of the House. From that moment, she's been a voice on the matter of diaspora. She really has. And we must acknowledge her. Please, can you clap? Why do you? Yes. When people do the right thing, we must acknowledge them. She did. And she pushed it. She got so much pushback on it. She didn't make the kind of, what you call it, progress that could have happened if everybody backed her. And now she's head of the Commission on Diaspora, and she's continuing to push, and she's learned some lessons from what happened in the previous era, and she's doing it differently and being strategic in building coalitions to push on this agenda. And now we have people like Senator Ned Nwoko, who is also pushing on the agenda. Coalitions are important. But let me tell you, the diasporans, listen, you have to sustain your energy on this matter. You are the primary beneficiaries of this right to vote. Many of you think that the money you send home is enough. Take it and just leave me alone. Well, the truth is, the extent of the respect that this society would have for you is dependent on whether Nigeria becomes a well-governed country. And so for Nigeria to become a well-governed country, we must improve the quality of our democracy. For us to improve the quality of our democracy, we need the kind of knowledge, the kind of partnership, the kind of resources that you bring into the national conversation. I thank you very much for listening.
If you feel like standing for that applause, please do. I promise I will not charge you for it. That was stellar. That was stellar. That was stellar. If I had my way, I'd say we should all go home. She's done the perfect job. There's no need to be here anymore. But ladies and gentlemen, that is the gospel truth. Of everything she has said, so many things to pick from. Partnership, knowledge, and money. And I'll give you a quick, from the World Bank, we have, and I hope we will still have him speak, I think he's here, the Vice Chair, Charter Institute of Personnel and Development, South London Branch, United Kingdom, Mr. Dayo Olomu. He spoke some years back, and this is what he said. Data from the World Bank revealed that the Nigerian diaspora population remitted $65.34 billion in 3 years, talking about 2018, 2019, and 2020. Further broken down, 2018, $24.31 billion, 2019, $23.81 billion, and 2020, $17.21 billion. Put all that together and see what Nigeria will become if these monies are put into proper use. So it simply means, and why we are here again, is that our monies can speak, but our voices cannot speak. And that's the reason why we are here. Please, can we put our hands together again for Dr. Oby? Thank you so much. As I'm moving on to our next speaker, we will still be joined by Dr. Abike Dabiri-Erewa. But just before she joins us, we have another speaker who will be joining us very soon, or who will be joining us directly. Is here, or she is here. Chief Ambassador Adewumi. She's the Cultural Ambassador, Nigeria Consulate in New York. And she's talking about the voice of the diaspora advocating for voting rights. Can we please put our hands together for her? I do not need to explain to you that when I say chief, she truly is a chief. You see the appearance.
Wow. Good afternoon. Good morning. Good morning, distinguished ladies and gentlemen. Please let me stand on the existing protocol. It is so difficult to speak after Dr. Oby. Oh my goodness. You can stand here and speak all day and we will listen. I want to thank the New Center for this opportunity to speak on a critical topic, which is the voice of the diaspora, advocating for voting rights. My name is Joyce Adewumi. I wear many hats. You know, one of it is that I am the cultural ambassador for Nigerian Consulate. I have also been honored as a cultural leader in New York City. One of the things that I organize here in New York City is the New York City Multicultural Festival. Can you imagine a Nigerian organizing the New York City Multicultural Festival? That brings together all the cultural communities that are in New York City. So thank you so much. Thank you so much. So that's one of the things that I do. Doctor has already given us a whole lot of data, and we know that that's what she does. She gives data. So I'm not going to go too much into data as well. Rather, I'm going to start with a reminder of a song that was that belongs to the late great Oyinka Owenu. One love, keep us together. Right? Okay. Today, more than ever, we see the remarkable achievements of Nigeria in the diaspora, especially in the United States. From the heights of Silicon Valley to the halls of progressive universities, Nigerians are making an indelible mark on global industries. Yet, despite these outstanding achievements, millions of Nigerians living abroad, including those who continue to make Nigeria proud in the U.S., are denied a fundamental right, the right to vote. Let me be clear. Allowing Nigerians in the diaspora to vote It's not just a question of democratic fairness. It is an opportunity, even as Dr. said, to tap into a network of individuals whose experiences and successes position them to help shape the Nigeria we all desire. The diaspora sends over $20 billion annually in remittances to Nigeria, but their contribution could go so much deeper if we allow them to directly participate in the electoral process. Diaspora Nigerians have seen functional democracy in action, witness how transparency, accountability, and innovation can drive a nation forward. Their vote represents a desire to invest in a future where Nigeria can harness not only its natural resources, but also its intellectual capital. By enfranchising Nigerians abroad, we are saying that we value their ideas, their vision, and their contributions beyond the financial remittances. The Nigerian government, in turn, must demonstrate transparency, honesty, and love. That's why I said, one love, keep us together. Love towards all citizens, including those living overseas. Transparency in governance must inspire Nigerians in diaspora to believe in the future of our country. They must know that their vote will count, that it will not be lost to corruption or inefficiency. A government that is open and accountable can foster the loyalty and hope that millions of Nigerians abroad clearly carry in their hearts. In granting the right to vote, Nigeria would also be sending a clear message: every Nigerian matters. It is a declaration that citizenship and patriotism are not defined by geographical boundaries. It is an acknowledgement that Nigerians abroad who continue to represent the best of us should have a say in shaping the future of the nation they love. Because I was only given 3 minutes and I had to cut off all the data, I will now conclude. The right to vote to Nigerians, the right to vote for Nigerians abroad isn't just about legal inclusion. It's about nation building. It's about embracing the wealth of knowledge, experience, and resources that Nigerians in the diaspora are ready to offer. The time has come for Nigeria to tap into the full potential of its people, both at home and abroad. The future of Nigeria is a collective responsibility, and the power of the diaspora, exemplified by the incredible achievements of Nigeria in the U.S. and around the world, could help propel our nation forward. The question is, are we ready to let them? Before I drop the mic, I just want to use myself an example because you won't find it in the books of all the Nigerians who are doing things. But I was fortunate because of my position. One of the positions that I do have is I am on the community board in my community, and what do? We advise the elected officials on how to spend the money to increase or improve the quality of life of the people in our community. And what that does is it brings me to close proximity with all the elected officials, to the degree that when Nigerians need something here, I'm able to go and speak to them. Just like Doctor, you said, some of the politicians cannot do what I'm able to do. When the Oni of Ife came here, your humble self was the one who organized the motorcade that took him to City Hall easily. There are many things that I have been able to do through the glory of God because of my position here, because of the work that I've done here, or I do here, and because of the respect that I humbly command. And it is part of the things that I am trying to do in Nigeria. But we need these things to be put in place so that we can effectively serve Nigeria. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, ma'am. Thank you so much for joining us. Now, while she was speaking, I think while Dr. Oby was speaking, a lady walked in, and I'll very quickly recognize her because she's somebody I've seen several times who has been in the forefront of speaking to the government, challenging the government concerning the rights of the people. And I saw her here, I was surprised, I didn't know she was coming. I'm talking about none other than Yemi Adamoleku. She is the face for Enough is Enough Nigeria. Is Yemi here? My producer beckoned on her to come forward. She refused. She said she would speak behind. Such is the humility she has. Yemi, please, could you please come forward? And I'm saying this because Yemi would pass you by on the streets of New York and you won't even know her. But this is a force of a voice that speaks for Nigerians all across the globe. And that is Yemi Adamoleku. Thank you so much. Enough is Enough. If you Google that organization, you'll see what they've been doing across the country. Thank you so much. Ladies and gentlemen, without further ado, there's still enough space for us to speak and for us to hear. We now have, and it gives me great pleasure to introduce Honorable Abike Dabiri-Erewa, Executive Chairman, CEO, Nigerians in Diaspora Commission. She will be speaking on the current status of diaspora voting legislation in Nigeria, infrastructural and logistical challenges. She's joining us virtually from Abuja, the federal capital. Can we please give her a round of applause as she joins us?
Thank you, New Central, for putting this together. It's not easy having a live transmission, and I could see that you had live transmission of the whole UN General Assembly. Well done, and thank you very much. And thank you for this very important topic. So I pay my respect and compliments to all the speakers, everyone in the room. And for my brothers and sisters in New York, my deepest apologies. I wanted to be in that room physically, but unfortunately, you know, duty called, and I could not be in New York with you. But I'm glad I could still join virtually. So again, thank you, New Central, for putting this together. I want to thank the last two speakers. Madam Oby Ezekwesili, thank you so much. You've given so much data, so I don't have to go into that. And thank you for your kind words. And I want to thank you too for all you do for your country, Nigeria. And like I said, we don't need to go into all the data. Madam Oby said the tone for the data. And for our sister who spoke after her, I also commend all you're doing, you know, in the position that you're occupying in New York. I thank all of you. And I pay my respect and compliments to all the Nigerians in diaspora in New York, all over the world, and those that are watching. This is a very important topic, and it's one that is dear to the heart of a lot of us. Now let's look at the diaspora without repeating what we have heard. Now the Nigerian diaspora, whether we like it or not, are factors that we cannot ignore. There are factors that we cannot ignore. Now, the Nigerian diaspora is, first of all, an intellectual capital. As Madam Oby said, Nigerians in the diaspora are the most, in America, let's even say America, are the most educated immigrants in America. It's not a debate. There's no debate about it. It's been proven. All the facts are there. Just a few weeks ago, a young chap, just 35 years old, bought over a Red Lobster. The richest immigrant in America, Tokwe, is Nigerian. Do I want to talk about Mr. Ogunlesi? Or do I want to talk about the doctors that are changing the healthcare space in America? A lot of them. Let me say Dr. Lutoye, for instance. Dr. Lutoye is one doctor who, you know, gave birth to a uterus. A mother gave birth twice. That was Dr. Lutoye, and a whole lot of them. So let's go into specific. And some of you in the room, I want to commend you for what you've been doing. So Nigerians in diaspora, you are intellectual capital. You have a whole lot of knowledge. And I'm glad that, having been working with you for a while, a lot of you are doing great things back home. In the last 3 years, Nigerian doctors in the diaspora have set up at least 10 hospitals in Nigeria. And they're contributing to, changing the issue of medical tourism in Nigeria. They're doing very well in America, but said, look, let's do something back home. Like I said, I can give you 10. A lot of them are also getting into ICT, the food business, agriculture, and all that. So we're really proud of you as an intellectual capital. Now, the Nigerian in the diaspora is also a financial capital. We've heard the figures, remittances. I'll just, in the last 5 years, I can tell you you've remitted over $90 billion to Nigeria. And as we have heard, this is not small money. It's much more than, many states put together. And this remittances goes into family things and all that, but also you are investing in your country. And I'm proud of that, and I'm proud that we've been able to work with you to make that happen in the last couple of years. Because we have programs like the Diaspora Investment Summit, we have the Diaspora Day where we come together. We've also introduced the Diaspora Merit Award, where we recognize Nigerians who are doing very well abroad, but also doing things back home. So it's not enough that you're excelling in America or wherever, but also what are you doing back home? A lot of you are doing so much. And honestly speaking, I'm so proud to share the same genes with you. The Nigerian diaspora is also a social capital, because you are the #1 ambassadors. Wherever we talk about Nigeria, you're the #1 people we have to reach out to. Wherever, in terms of changing the narratives about our country, it has to be you, the Nigerian diaspora. So you are our #1 ambassadors. So we know the importance of the diaspora, and because the federal government knows the importance of the diaspora, we now have a diaspora commission, for which I'm humbled to have been the very first chairman of this commission. It's been a huge task, but I believe that in the last 5 years we've made a bit of progress talking about the diaspora. And the diaspora issues are now on the front burner. And, even countries are coming to us, 8 have come to us to understudy NITCOM and diaspora engagement. So we won't joke with you, the diaspora. And I know that is where the issue of diaspora voting comes in. Okay, so you are doing this much. You're contributing to your country's economy. So we can't overstate the need for diaspora voting. And let's look at the challenges that are in front of us and how we can overcome those challenges. Now, let's look at the constitutions. We've had 3. We've had the 1979 Constitution. We've had now we have the 1999 Constitution, which is about being amended. And as Madam Oby said, when I was in Parliament, I actually joined in supporting the bill to amend the Constitution to make the diaspora vote. But guess what? It was totally rejected. And don't forget that even before then, some Nigerians in America went to court and said the court should force the Nigerian government to make it possible to vote. But it did not work because it's all a matter of the Constitution. INEC, severally, we have engaged with INEC numerous times, and INEC will tell you we're ready for diaspora voting. The former President Buhari, in fact, under President Obasanjo, he clamored for diaspora voting. The same thing with President Yar'Adua, the same thing with President Jonathan, and now the same thing with President Bola Ahmed Tinubu. So it's not enough to say we want it to happen. The Parliament just has to amend the Constitution to make it happen. And that is where all of us collectively will have to lobby parliamentarians. We'll have to lobby the National Assembly, because if they don't make it happen, then there's nothing we can do. But here's the thing. The National Assembly is at the verge of amending the Constitution, and we're hoping that this time around the Constitution will be amended. I think the last one was aborted, but this one, they are assuring us that yes, this Constitution will be amended. Now, if the National Assembly goes ahead to amend this Constitution without looking at the issue of diaspora voting, then what happens? Now, here's what we're telling the Parliament. It's not the National Assembly that will conduct the voting. It's going to be INEC. So there's even going to be another layer of amendment, which will be done by the electoral body as to how diaspora voting will happen. But the thing is that for this constitutional amendment, for all of you in the room, for all of you listening, for every one of us, let us lobby, let us work together, and for the diaspora, channel your energy to an issue like diaspora voting, not, about where we come from. Igbo is fighting Yoruba, we're arguing and abusing each other. Let's leave all that aside and channel energy to this issue of diaspora voting. And I believe that if everybody speaks collectively and demands of the National Assembly to amend the Constitution, it will be done. Now, the good news about this amendment is that the bill is already with the constitutional amendment team, and is being sponsored by no less than the Speaker of the House of Representatives, the Right Honorable Tajuddin Abbas. So that gives me a bit of hope and a bit of confidence that, well, if the Speaker himself, who was there, the last House, the one before, also supporting diaspora voting advocacy, so if he is the sponsor of the bill now with 5 others, I believe that maybe there's a ray of hope that is now the Speaker, and we should be able to get diaspora voting possible. But are there challenges? Of course, a whole lot of challenges. Now, you still have people who will tell you, oh, we haven't gotten it right here. And then when I move to diaspora voting, yeah, that is an argument. But my question is, so when are we going to get it right? Are we going to run away from doing the right things? Are we going to run away from doing certain things that we know has to happen because we're telling ourselves that, oh, we're not ready, we haven't done it well enough? That should not be an excuse. In fact, if anything, what needs to be done is, who knows, maybe diaspora voting will even be a catalyst to positivity in our elections. I believe so, and I'll tell you why I believe so. When you look at countries that have done diaspora voting, and a whole lot of them have done it, over 100 and something countries, even in Africa here, why should Nigeria be left behind? Because we are afraid of ourselves. Now, some tell me that maybe some tribe or some region are more than the others. I'm telling you openly that that is not even true. That is not true. When you look at data of Nigerians in the diaspora, there are some areas where they don't make any noise. But that is even not an excuse. But the thing is, well, the data, we're still, Madam Oby mentioned of some figures, but we are way more than those numbers. All over, we're looking at almost 17 million Nigerians in the diaspora. So we are still working on data. We have a data mapping portal now so that we can be more accurate. But a lot of Nigerians do not want to, share their data. But we're beginning to succeed in that regard. So that fear is that okay, maybe it's going to be an advantage to one community or tribe over another. Even if it is their right to vote. But then we have to define who is a diaspora. When we're coming up with the diaspora voting bill, who is a diaspora? Now, legally, a Nigerian diaspora is somebody who has lived for more than 1 year in that country, pays his tax, has an address, and is a legal resident. I think that is very important. And even by doing that, we'll be able to have data of our genuine legal residents abroad. You cannot cross the boat as an illegal immigrant, go to another country and say you want to vote. That you will not be the definition of a diaspora. So let's get that clear. And I believe working with our missions and all that, it is not an issue. So we have to define who a diaspora is. In Brazil, you cannot vote if you have not visited your country in the last 4 years. So there will be, we'll make it, it will have the Nigerian content or what works with us in Nigeria. We're not going to copy hook, line, and sinker. So when the bill comes before the Parliament, the Constitutional Review Committee, I urge everybody to come out and speak out so that we can dot the T's and the I's and, ensure that we do not create more problems while we're saying we want to vote. So these things must be spelled out. For instance, you want to come and vote, but you don't even know who you're voting for. You haven't been to the country, you don't know anything. Just like Brazil is doing? Or do we want to do like some other countries? India, for instance, does not have diaspora voting. India does not even encourage dual citizenship. So in India, you can get your 25-year visa, but when it's time to vote, you go home and vote, and they make it comfortable for you. Countries, which country just started recently, they allow just staff that have traveled and are living abroad. So there are many ways, there are many clauses, or there are many other issues that we'll look at to ensure that the diaspora voting does not become more of negative than a positive. But it's not a problem. They are about conversations and decisions which only the National Assembly can take. So by the time the National Assembly starts the constitutional amendment, this is our opportunity to ensure that we all speak with one voice and ask that diaspora voting should be possible. But if you ask me, I'll be very sincere with you. When I talk to a lot of members of the National Assembly, what I hear behind the scene is, Abike, go away with your diaspora voting wahala. So there are still going to be challenges. But like I said, I'm happy that the Speaker is the sponsor of the bill. Also in the Senate, Senator Ned Nwoko has sponsored a bill too. So I think the key thing now is advocacy, and I'm glad that my sister just walked in the room, Madam, enough is enough. So it's important that we work on advocacy. It's important that we work on lobbying the National Assembly. It's important that we put the facts forward as to why it is now time for the Parliament to vote. And we, the Diaspora Commission, we've written a memo to the Committee on Constitutional Review on the reasons why the diaspora should be able to vote. And there are some points we noted in that bill, let me see if I can find it, where we are justifying why this Assembly, under Senator Godswill Akpabio, under Speaker Tajuddin Abbas, has no excuses not to allow the diaspora to vote. Now, the rule of the Parliament just passed the law. It doesn't mean it's going to start tomorrow. INEC will now work out modalities, and INEC will decide when the infrastructure is ready for diaspora voting. But you don't amend the Constitution every year. So in amending this Constitution, just amend the relevant portions of the Constitution to make this possible. That should be the advocacy of every one of us that believe that the diaspora should vote. And just a few points I've made to the Senate Committee, the National Assembly Committee on Constitutional Amendment. Number one, you have a diaspora commission now. You have an agency, a one-stop agency for the diaspora. And in the last 5 years, I mean, there's a lot of work for NIDCOM to still do. I mean, we're still scratching the surface. But in the last 5 years, we've been able to build data. We've been able to group the diaspora together. We've been able to use technology to work more with our diaspora. So there's an agency that can deal with the issue of, that is dealing with the issue of diaspora. So that is a strong point. Two, is that we have more Nigerians going abroad. I mean, we all know the Japa syndrome. But like I said, it's the legal resident that we will advocate should vote. So there are more Nigerians living, and they're all doing great things. You know, in Canada, you should see what Nigerians are doing. If in Canada, we just worked with them, we have 65 diaspora associations and about 20 student associations that we now have on the data. If you're going to Canada tomorrow for the first time, there's somebody you can call for help. So more Nigerians are living, and we cannot deny them the right to vote as long as they are living regularly and they are legal in the countries they're going to. Then we need to take advantage of potentials of globalization. We need to look at comparative cross-country perspectives and borrowable lessons for Nigeria. We have been doing that. I will put all that before the Committee on Constitutional Amendment. And then we have to ensure that the relevant areas are amended, and it's very simple. For the Parliament to amend the alterations of Section 772, 1172, 1325 and 1785 of the proposals in the bill, and just amend those sections, and that is all. After that, INEC is still going to do a second line of amendment as to how they're going to do it, who is going to vote, how they're going to do it, when the infrastructure is ready. So let's all work together on this. We need an advocacy on this. We need to just set the agenda for Parliament to make this possible. So when it happens, I'm calling on all of you, come together and let's work on diaspora voting. It's for the benefit of Nigeria. Other countries cannot leave us behind. We have to get it right, and I believe we will get it right. New Central, thank you for talking about this. For all participants in the room, thank you for being part of this. And please, 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 don't let's pay lip service. Some time ago, we had this kind of conversation, and some Nigerians in the room said, look, we're mobilizing 1 million signatures. I didn't see one. It was only left to a few people that were doing the advocacy. So channel your energy into achieving diaspora voting. Work with us, work with advocates of diaspora voting so that together we can achieve this. And I believe it will even to the benefit of this administration if diaspora voting bill is made possible by the National Assembly. I told Senator Akpabio he will make history. I told Speaker Abbas you will make history. And I believe Nigeria will not regret it if the diaspora vote. The diaspora deserves to vote. We can't be paying lip service to you are the best in the world. You're contributing to your country and all that without being able to vote. It's very important, and we need to work at it. So once more, New Central, thank you for putting this together. It's a whole lot of job you have done, and we appreciate this, and we hope that the communique from this will be properly circulated so that we can even start the lobbying with what we come up with at this town hall meeting. Thank you very much. And for my brothers and sisters in New York, I miss you all, and I look forward to being with you very, very soon. Thank you, and God bless everybody. Thank you very much. And for my brothers and sisters in New York, I miss you all, and I look forward to
Thank you so much, ma'am. Thank you so much. Spoken very well. Thank you so much. Some 4 or 5 years ago, I was at the international airport when some Nigerians were being repatriated from Libya, coming back in such a terrible state. The lady you are seeing on the screen was one of the people who spearheaded those people's return. It was difficult, but they did come back, and they were very thankful. Not just coming back to nothing, but they came back and they were able to have soft landing, so to speak. Thank you very much once again, ma'am. Well, moving on, we would have a segment where we would have comments and questions will be allowed from everybody seated here and those who are online. I believe that Honorable Abike Dabiri will be available to respond to some of those questions later at the end of the program. To speak next, we are going to have Kayode Anifowoshe, who is the President, Nigeria Professionals Group Incorporated, Boston, USA, speaking on the challenges faced by diaspora voters. Honorable Abike just said that INEC needs to put certain structures in place. So let's believe that at some point, INEC doesn't even know some of the structures to put in place. That's why we are here, for people to tell them, this is the reality on ground, and these are some of the structures that should be put in place. Thank you very much, sir. Please join us.
Good morning or good afternoon. I don't know what time it is right now. I want to say thank you to New Central for the opportunity to be here, and also the leading this initiative under the leadership of Mr. Kayode. I thought it's a great initiative and laudable as well. Someone have to lead the conversation. I'm from Boston, so I came in specifically for 2 events. This one because how important it is. And a lot of it said, if Dr. Obi said a lot, and I don't even know what else I need to say. But I've been asked to talk about the opportunities or the challenges. A little bit about myself and the organization that I lead for the benefit of those who are here. It's called the Nigerian Professional Group. It's not a social or cultural group. It's a community of students. As you know, we have a lot of Ivy League schools in Boston. We have Harvard, so there's influx of a lot of Nigerian students. We have professionals, early career, mid-careers, and executives, and also entrepreneur. Every Nigerian has a side also. And so we're about close to 5,000 members nationwide, headquartered in Boston. A lot of our focus is around career development. We have a career conference coming up November 16. So why am I saying this? A lot of things that Dr. Oby and the Honorable Dr. Abike Dabiri said earlier are actually fact. I'm an accountant by training, by 9 to 5, a chartered accountant. I work for a multinational financial institution in Boston. And I heard Dr. Oby saying something about numbers. I'm not going to throw back all those numbers, but those numbers are actually facts based on my, engagement with the Nigerian professional group. There's a lot of, when we talk about education, we have a lot of Nigerians who are doing amazing, doing great things all over. And when we talk about the numbers, it's been said over and over again that there are about 17 million Nigerians in diasporas, those who are residents outside the country, excluding the numbers that are in and out, also resident in Nigeria but spend quite a number of time abroad. So we have the number. We also have the economic power. You've also heard about how much of, in terms of resources that we remit back home, which is an average about $20 billion, not naira. And that tells you, and it was very interesting when Dr. Oby said, we have all this economic power, we have the number, but we don't have the voice. And that should give us a pause, actually. That should give us some sort of concern. And I'm really excited and really want to applaud the leadership of the Nigerian Diaspora Commission under Honorable Dabiri about all the efforts. I think one thing that we need to really acknowledge here is the fact that this message is getting to the presidency. There is a conversation in the legislature, so which is really great. And now, Dr. Oby talked about knowledge. We have that, with this, a lot of certificates and, a lot of all that. How do we apply that? Talking about the application, knowing what we've heard today about the effort that's been made, we have a lot of, I'm not a legal expert, but one of the things that we've heard as a challenge, key core challenge around this conversation is the legal implications that has to do with our constitution. And we have a lot of amazing legal experts in diasporas who should be involved in this campaign. And one thing that I would also want to emphasize is that it's about legacy. A lot of us might be comfortable here being in diaspora, but we also have to think about the future of our generations to come back home, and that's why we need to be much involved. So I'm calling right now for all people, legal experts and policy experts to be involved in this conversation. She also did mention something around partnership. I'm currently taking classes in a PhD program and focus on strategic leadership, really around collaboration within the diaspora. For me, it's not just partnership, but really collaboration. We need to move away from operating in silos and just hearing conversations and not being really involved. We also need to, one of the things people talk about is you don't need to be called to be involved. You can always raise your hand and fill that gap. A lot of people wait to be called, and they wait for someone to say, oh, can you do this? But if we find an opportunity, I think it's, and you have the skill sets, you have the capability, I think it's really important for us to get involved. Let's collaborate. There are so many organizations, different organizations, having those databases and being able to really execute and use those databases to reach and get everyone in this campaign. Is really going to be an amazing if at the end of the day we are able to achieve this. So again, thank you so much. Bringing greetings from Boston. I'm really excited to be here, and thank you.
Thank you so much from Boston. Thank you so much. While the United Nations General Assembly was ongoing, we had the pleasure to speak with the Minister for Foreign Affairs, that's Ambassador Chuga, yes. And of course, while that interview was ongoing, I threw the question to him about Nigerians in diaspora and voting. And he said, the conversation is ongoing. And he threw a small joke and said, well, it will not happen in one day. We still have challenges with voting in Nigeria. Let's conclude. He said, let's conquer that first before we go out of the country. But the conversation is ongoing. And truly, we do have challenges with voting in Nigeria. We recently saw the voting in Edo State and the challenges there. And and we know that there are challenges. So we still have quite some hurdles to cross, if you put it that way. We're going to go to our virtual space. We have some speakers there. And again, I did mention that we'll take questions and comments. So please put them together. We're going to online space. Now we have Lade Hafziba Ulugbemi, who's a councillor, London Borough of Greenwich, UK. Yeah, she's a civil engagement. She's going to be speaking on civil engagement across borders, empowering Nigerians in the diaspora. If Lade is there? Okay, she's there. Thank you so much. Please, can we put our hands together for her as she joins us? If you can hear me. Okay.
Okay, I can hear you. Thank you very much. I'd like to say, all protocols observed. I think it was absolutely fantastic listening to Madam Obi, the speaker who spoke after, and of course, Honorable Abike Dabiri. I'd like to say thank you to New Central TV, and of course to Bernard Akede, who is a brother, is a friend I've known for a while. Thanks for putting this together. So I've been asked to speak on civic engagement across the borders. I'm a councillor, a politician, a civil servant, and I wear so many caps. However, I am here to encourage us because I have seen firsthand the importance of civic participation and how seriously it is taken here in UK. And of course, for those who are in Canada and those who are in America, they very likely will say the same. I'm very much aware that there will be some politicians among us here. On election days, one of the things that politicians do that I do is that we go out door knocking. It's actually a reminder to people about the power of democracy. And I know that Honorable Dabiri mentioned a lot about what we diasporans must do, what we should do, the various kind of things we should do. And I actually listed some, not wanting to be repetitive to repeat some of the things that Madam Obi and Madam Abike has said. I just quickly thought, let me mention some few things that we can do here to actually engage and encourage diasporan participation. I know that at the moment, a lot of us are extremely apathetical because we see all the kind of things happening on ground. Everybody's like, let us sit down and wait and look and see when things are right, then we'll start to participate. We cannot afford to wait any longer. The boat is moving very, very fast. And one of the things that I will say, like we have in Ghana, Ghana has diasporan voting. Kenya has, South Africa has. Why can't we? With the amount of money that we remit every year, 2020 was 20 billion, not million, billion dollars. If we can remit that much money, why can we not take time out to make sure that we're making influence, we're making change? And how can we do that? We need to engage the next generation. The fact that at the moment we have a lot of I'm sorry to say with all due apologies to our older generation, we have a lot of older people who are in politics at the moment who do not have any succession plan. There's nothing. For us as diasporans, one of the things I'll be saying to my colleagues around here, we must have succession plan. There must be youth engagement in the diaspora. We need to start talking to our younger ones. A lot of them are so interested, they want to go back home. We need to start talking to them about them having interest in politics so that lobbying can be made. Thank you so much, Honorable Abbas, who is sponsoring the bill in the House of Legislative. And of course, for Senator Ned Nwoko, who is sponsoring it in the Red House. But however, we from here can do a lot of things. There's so much things that we can do. For those who are politicians, we can influence background. In the borough where I am, the leader of the council, which is almost like the largest council in London, is a young 35-year-old Nigerian. You need to hear him speak. He has so much knowledge, so much wisdom on the inside of him. The first Black female Lord Mayor of Leeds is a Nigerian. We've just finished the Labour conference, and I was there. And there are almost about 60 Nigerian councillors in UK. Why can we not harness the power of our political, quote-unquote, elite that are in the diaspora? There's so much we can do, but we cannot sit on the side and continue to criticize back home. But like Honorable Dabiri said, We have to get up. What can we do here? Gather the strength of our expertise, of our skills, and make sure in one way or the other we're influencing people back home. Thank you so much for having me. Thank you.
Thank you so much, ma'am. Thank you so much, ma'am. Thank you so much. We are quickly moving on. We also have another contributor who is online who will be joining us. And we have Dr. Jelili, who is online. We had him earlier. Do we still have him on the screen? Now, after him, we would come back to this room and then we'll have our comments section where everybody and anybody who is here who would like to say something, who would like to... Okay, he is here. Jelili Adibi is here joining us. Thank you so much. If you can hear me, sir, please kindly unmute your device. Okay, that's done. Please, can we give him a round of applause? And I was saying that immediately after that, we'll come to the room here and then we'll take comments and questions from all of us seated here before we go further.
Including our big sister, Auntie Oby Ezekwesili, and including our other big sister, Auntie Abike Dabiri, who are usually considered to be the Methuselah of the Nigerian Diaspora Association. She's been there forever, and possibly that's one of the things we also need to revisit in terms of transitioning to a new generation of leaders to lead the Nigerian Diaspora Organization, a body that had been part of the formative engagement that actually led to the creation of NIDCOM. I still have copies of several of these documents that we edited vis-a-vis our Nigerian Diaspora Organization worldwide. Back in the days, I have several copies of, the back and forth that involve Honorable Abike Dabiri. I'm still glad you're still there, but hopefully we need to have a transition plan to a new leadership in the organization. Today I've been asked to talk about the disconnects between Nigerian institutions and diaspora communities. And I will speak briefly about that and then pivot to the issue of Nigerian diaspora voting. One of the things I really appreciate in the previous discussion was the contribution of Auntie Oby Ezekwesili, who actually posited that we need more than resources and money from the Nigerian diaspora, because what we need, according to her, include partnership, knowledge, and money. But one thing she did not allude to, and which I'm going to be talking about extensively, is the absence of a national and subnational framework for harvesting and harnessing the resources of the Nigerian diaspora community to foster sustainable development at several layers of our national development conversation. There have been some effort here and there to put in place something very close to a framework, but we've not really, have what we can call a national framework for achieving this goal. There has been an effort to create NIDO. NIDO was created and is still there. Of course, it has several challenges. And part of the activities that NIDO agitated for, which NIDCOM is now implementing, is what we call the National Diaspora Policy. There was a lot of conversation around this, and eventually we had one put in place in 2021. And I believe the policy document is accessible on NIDCOM website. And one of the things I noticed about this particular policy document is that particularly when you look at Chapter 1, it revolves around certain organizing principles, including partnership, which Dr. Oby Ezekwesili spoke about, engagement and synergy, mutuality, empowerment, reciprocity, accountability, integrity, inclusiveness, transparency and communication, sustainability, gender and youth responsiveness, consistency. And one of the things I notice is that many folks in the diaspora, they are not even aware of this policy document, possibly some of those that have spoken about this. But one of the things I noticed about this policy document is that it is full of buzzwords. And the other thing is that it is yet to be translated into a framework for engagement and driving the realization of sustainable development goal in Nigeria. And for this to actually happen, one of the things that is written into this national framework for diasporic engagement, a policy document for diasporic engagement, is that they intend to create platforms structured around the following strategies. One, strategy of engagement, strategy of enablement, and strategy of empowerment. And the whole goal is to leverage several mechanisms, including remittances, National Diaspora Day, providing protection for labor migration, engagement, face-to-face, the issue of database, outreaches and diaspora, creation of diaspora offices. They also spoke about things related to education as one of the thematic issues under their strategy section. They have some issues scoped out about academic and teacher, and things related to student exchange and internship. There's also a noticeable emphasis on healthcare and obviously the Diaspora Day that comes up every 25th of July. But there is something that is important, and that we are believing out in a national conversation on leveraging and annexing the diaspora resources to elicit and accelerate the process of development in Nigeria, which is the fact that we do not have a framework. Policy documents are different from framework, but both can play important roles in guiding actions and decisions intended to achieve a set forth development goal. And usually policy framework are crafted to be broader in scope the frameworks are crafted to be broader in scope than policy, and they also provide a structural approach that guides and that guides the process of achieving those goals, and they are always created with context in mind, with scopes in mind, with construct in mind, and with relationship for policy implementation in mind. Unfortunately, we've not been able to achieve this. And that's one of the reasons why when people talk about, what is the diaspora bringing to the table? They focus on remittances. But because we do not have a framework for leveraging the financial resources within the diaspora community, people are always talking about 20 billion coming to Nigeria via remittances annually. But the question has not been asked, what for? The sub-family responsibility. It's massive, it's amazing. But are you aware that only 3%, according to one of the data that I've analyzed, of such remittances only goes to funding, finance, and development in the country? And what that means is that, I'm going to be wrapping that up. So what that means is that we need a framework for making this happen. And for this framework to happen, then we need to start talking about what are the conversations we need to have around creating this framework. And I believe to create this framework, we need to work collaboratively to identify goals and capacity that will form the basis of developing this framework. And we also have to have a program directed at knowing the diaspora. We do not know the diaspora. I've worked in several capacities, including leading a diasporic organization, speaking with people that are not even associated with any organization. The Nigerian government doesn't have a database. Sometimes we speak about individual. Diaspora is more than individual. We need a database of people's potential. We do not have that database. That means we don't really know our diaspora. And we need to build trust. This needs to be incorporated, carry over into the development of framework. It's only if we have done all of this, then we can now go to another part of the framework, which is mobilizing stakeholders, the government, the diasporic, and there is a need for effective engagement of diaspora in development. All of these need to be created, to be envisioned within a framework. Even the diaspora voting we're talking about, there must be a framework for it, because there are issues to be addressed within the context of diaspora voting. Electoral security is a big one. Lack of reliable database is a big one. Who defines, who qualifies the diaspora? Senator Abike Dabiri said the House, the guys in the parliament, they got to make this decision. I consider that problematic. Nigerians beyond that. We need to have a sustained conversation about who defines what. If the diaspora community are not part of those who define who qualifies as a diaspora, it means we are making policy at the expense of the people that will be driving the process. And there are other things that we need to consider. I want to thank you for the opportunity. And before I go, I also think we need to start focusing on the model created by our people. Because one mistake developing countries have been making about development, so let us study China and adapt what they are doing in China. China is not Nigeria. Let us study what they are doing in the US. US is not Nigeria. We need to study indigenous responses to development teaching.
We have to
I will leave what is one model. It is called Lofty. It's a Lofty Incorporation, one of the Nigerian initiatives that is mobilizing a lot of money to finance development in Nigeria. We need to study systems such as this to drive and localize our responses to development. Thank you, I appreciate it.
Thank you so much, Dr. Jalili. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Unfortunately, we don't have
study systems such as this to drive and localize our responses to development. Thank you, I appreciate it.
Thank you so much, Dr. Jalili. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Unfortunately, we don't have all that time. Let's remember that it's a live broadcast and we have to continue with normal programming after this. Dr. Jalili talked about having a database that also accommodates Nigerians in diaspora. Coincidentally, just yesterday I spoke to engineer Abisoye Koka Odushote, who is the DG for NIMSI, talking about NIN and all of that. And she did hammer on the database as well. So we do hope that that will come into full action and that people in diaspora, Nigerians in the diaspora, would have their voices heard. Before we go to Dr. Angela Harris, who's the founder, the rebirth of the Black Nation, I would like to ask, do we have anybody in here who does have comments, questions that would like to push forward? We'll take that 2 minutes and then we continue with our conversation. Please tell us your name and the group you represent, if you're representing any group.
I'm representing myself.
Okay, sir.
I'm a Nigerian. My name is Chinedu Ezekwesili. Diaspora voting. There's a proverb that says that a man who does not know where he's going can never hope to arrive. Diaspora voting. We have a country, not a nation. We're talking of nations to vote. We have a geographical entity called Nigeria. We have to evolve to be a nation. And for us to have a nation, we have to have a constitution. We have to have a constitution. We have to have a new constitution that will take care of diaspora voting as a nation. We have to have an INEC. It is called INEC, but you know what it means. We have to talk of election. Do we have election in Nigeria? We have selection, grab and run. And if we don't have election in Nigeria, talking of diaspora, so we have to have a nation before we now have a constitution that will take care of the diaspora. Therefore, it is important that we think, not talk. We have to go back and change what is called Nigeria. We don't have rulers in Nigeria. We make a mistake. We have rulers. What we have are rulers, not leaders. A leader will say, we are going somewhere. Then they will think of people they have left outside. They don't see you people as their own. They see you as people that can get something from. So we have to have leaders. What we have back there, they are not leaders. They are rulers. We don't have election in Nigeria. Go and check it though. Sorry to say that. The man they picked as the governor, is that the type of people that you call leaders? Let's go back and be serious with what we are saying. We need to have leaders, not rulers that we have. And unfortunately, sorry to say that, a person who commits crime is what?
literally, that's what the young people will say, drops mic. Because they actually just dropped the mic. I'll take 2 more people, or just, okay, I'm here, I'm told just 1 more. I have 2 people from this side. Let me come this side, so that it's fair and political. Please come forward. Okay.
Good afternoon and good evening to those in Nigeria. My name is Christine Mbaba, and I'm representing Nigerians in Diaspora organization, aka NIDO. I am the public engagement officer for NIDO, and I just want to express my own opinions of this event today. In as much as we're stressing the importance of Nigerians voting in diaspora, we also need to be mindful of who we are voting for. So if we don't have the good contestants or the good candidates, why not run ourselves? Why wait for whoever, the next Tunde or I don't know, to run who's not going to do anything? No offense, sorry. No offense, but let's be very mindful of who we're voting for. It's not just about voting. Then 2027, we come and vote for a new president and we're just going from fire to fire ban. So let's just be very mindful. I'm 34. I think I'm of age to start running for office. So I'm going to probably put my my own bid soon. Thank you.
Thank you so much. And I'm sure there are people here who would vote for you when you start running, based on what you have just said. Thank you so very much. We're going to come back to our speakers here. We would like to crave your indulgence. We know that some of you want to leave, but please, we would be as quick as we can. And then intermittently, we would still come to members of the audience here who would like to speak, give comments or ask questions. Immediately now, I would like to go to Dr. Angela Harris, who's the founder, the rebirth of the Black nation. She's speaking on international best practices for diaspora voting. Dr. Angela, thank you so much for joining us.
We shall overcome. We shall overcome. We shall overcome someday. Oh, deep in my heart, I do believe we shall overcome someday. Greetings, Nigeria, New York. I am Dr. Angela Harris, born in Columbus, Ohio, living in Atlanta, Georgia. Very influential in the diaspora mission for the world. One thing that is very, very important. I had things on paper, but you know, the one that gives us life every day, a lot of times he moves us differently when it's time to speak and you see what's going on. So, thinking about the topics of today, it's very important that we understand some of the things that have to take place in order for these things to become manifested the way that we see it and the way that we want it. One of those things, first of all, I am the founder of the Rebirth of the Black Nation. The Rebirth of the Black Nation is an agenda for Black people united, worldwide, global network. And so the things that we have to understand is 3 points that I'm going to make quickly. The first one is we have to understand agenda. In order for anything to be manifested that we want to see, we have to have an agenda that's going to make sense for it to happen. A lot of people want to start things. They want to start organizations instead of organizations. They want to start organizations for a name to, you know, to become known. But the order of the organizations are not intact. So we have to have an agenda. The Rebirth of the Black Nation has an agenda. That agenda is to understand order. That's the first thing. Order meaning what takes place first that's going to lead to the things that's going to create change. So I'm going to give you a little account of that really quick. Some people are on the bus. The bus are those who, they know that something needs to be done. They get on that bus and they're not moving anywhere because that's all they do. They know that something needs to be done, but they never move. The next portion of it is the train. The train is the moving pieces. The moving pieces are those who understand that there's a purpose for them, and they walk in that purpose, and they go after what they're designed to do daily in order to complete the task that they were born for. The next phase of it is the plane. The plane has been our problem, which is our leadership. That's why I was over there jumping in my seat when brother came and he spoke, because our leadership has been our problem, because we've had so many misleaders that continue to mislead us, and it defeats us in our fight that we call freedom. So now the Most High, the one that gives us life every day, has sent the overseers, the spaceship. That is the ones that understand that we are not only leaders, but we're responsible to make sure that the leaders do what the leaders are supposed to do. A lot of people don't want to take that authority because they're fearful of what man can do. They're fearful of what man may say, and they're also fearful of death. But one of the things that we have to understand in life is that tomorrow is not promised to us. And some of us are held accountable to become the overseers to make sure that things are moving. So that's the position that I sit in, everything that I do. With Black People United, the rebirth of the Black nations, the Black kings and queens worldwide. How does that tie into voting in the diaspora? One of the things that over time, I've been in Nigeria. Nigeria is my second home. As a matter of fact, I'll be flying out to go there on Monday. But in being in Nigeria, there's some things that I have concerns about. And the concerns are that in Nigeria, when you look at the demographics of Nigeria, it's either rich or poor. There's really not a medium. In order for things to change in the voting range, we have to develop that medium, because the medium are the real moving pieces. And in order for that to happen, we have to have order. The other thing that I want to state is that in the midst of all of these things going on, we have a lot of people in politics. But the thing is that we have to have people that have a heart for the people. So when you are voting, you can't vote because a person has money or a name. You have to vote because a person has a heart for the people, or nothing will ever change. As the first president ever of the SCLC, which is the Southern Christian Leadership Conference, Dr. Martin Luther King's organization here in the United States, one of the things that I realized is that over time, we have had a diminish of unity. When you go backwards and you look at how people used to sit at the table and use one bag of rice to feed whoever could eat, and we would make sure that that next person is fed, then we understand unity from that aspect. Over time, we have become very greedy and selfish. And in order for things to really, really change, the heart of the people has to be the mandate of change. So when it comes to the whole entire diaspora voting thing, in order for things to change, you have to understand also protocol. We have laws in the U.S., but people don't even know what they are, like cultural rights. Cultural rights covers civil rights, human rights, social rights, all of the rights. But if we don't know that these things exist, then we focus on one and all of the rest of them are abandoned. So the thing is to develop things in Nigeria or adopt things in Nigeria that are in the United States is going to make Nigeria great. Just like the United States has to also adopt things from Nigeria, that's going to make the U.S. great. The thing that I want to mention too is unity. No matter where we go, there's a lady sitting in this room right now that I want to just mention really quickly before I end, Dr. Chioma Leslie. When I first came to the United Nations, it was because of her. So when the people heard my voice and they were so enthused about who I was and all of these things, when they honored me, I could not be honored without also making sure that they honored her. These are the things that we have to do in order for things to change. It can't be about I, it has to be about we. And the unity of our people is the most important thing that we have to focus on. So I greet you all today to make sure that when you are doing things, that you're doing them from the heart. Because remember, tomorrow's not promised to none of us, but the one that gives us life today has given us another opportunity to be everything that he designed us to be. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Harris. Thank you so much, Dr. Harris. Now I see why she emphasized on the heart. When we just came in here, somebody complimented her dress and said it was very bright and very nice. And she said, well, that's just clothing. In my best American accent, by the way. She said, that's just clothing. It's going to go. But if it's not from the heart, that's where the real thing is. If it's not from the heart, then it don't mean nothing. I hope my American accent did well. But once again, can we please put our hands together for her? That was fantastic. Truly, if it's not from the heart, then it doesn't mean anything. We're going to be having Dr. Ed Illechukwu, who is coming to join us now. And then after him, we'll have Dr. Uchai Odims. And then we'll take some more comment from the audience before we call it a day, if that's all we have. Dr. Ed Illechukwu is the CEO, Global Initiative for the Education and Literacy of the African Girl. He's speaking on the intersection of education, civic participation, and the diaspora engagement. And as he comes forward, I'd just like to state again, just like the MD said, as Kayode Akintemi, that he was with the Sierra Leonean First Lady who was enforcing and reiterating the fact that the girl child is who she's advocating for right now, particularly when it comes to sexual harassment. Now, anybody who rapes or marries a child, anybody who's considered a child, will go to jail for at least 15 years. Imagine that before in Sierra Leone, they only get 4 months in prison for such an offense. And then sometimes they get a pat on the back of the hand and say, don't do that again. But now, at least 15 years or even more. If the person dies from that crime, that's the victim dies, that person will be sentenced to life. I think it's worth a round of applause. And these are the things that we should push in. Dr. Ed, please come forward. Thank you so much, sir.
Mr. Kayode, for what you're doing at the News Central. I'm happy to be here with you guys to speak on this very important topic here. And I want to also say thank you to the world-renowned Dr. Ezekwesili. Having listened to you today, I promise, I'm going to be one of your biggest fans in the coming days. Just a brief introduction of what I do and what I've done over the years. Global Initiative for the Education and Literacy of African Girls is a non-for-profit international, headquartered here in New York City, just down the street somewhere over there. And in 2014, when we had the issue with the girls in the northern Nigeria with Boko Haram who were kidnapped, and having gone to school in Nigeria myself, and being a member of the National Institute of Nigerian Students, I was an activist. I was actually the education director for that organization. Living in the United States for over two decades, I said, how can I help these children? I have 4 girls myself, and eventually, I came together with people of like minds, and we started this organization here. And it's taken me all over the world, speaking on international conferences, being invited by presidents of nations in the UK, in the Middle East, on platforms with the United Nations. We work very closely with the United Nations Women donating computer equipment to us, and a couple of other celebrities. Actually, recently, I don't know if Chief Mrs. Joy is aware, I was the only Nigerian that was interviewed here in New York City for the position of Assistant Commissioner for Cultural Affairs in New York City. So when we talk about Nigerians going above and beyond in the diaspora, we have a lot to offer. I also did work with the African Union, ambassador to the United States in Washington, D.C., the immediate past. Ambassador Dr. Arikana Chihombori, who happens to be from Zimbabwe. We worked very closely in Washington. I used to attend meetings from here in New York, where I was the education director for the whole of the United States. Before she was recalled and fired, actually, by the AU because she was someone that spoke unequivocally without mincing words. And you're looking at someone standing here today who is, I consider myself as an activist, and I love Kayode for that. I speak what I mean, and I mean what I speak. I fear nobody. I have sat, like I said, with presidents of nations. When it comes to diaspora voting in Nigeria, it's something I will be glad to speak about. So let's get to some knowledge here. Let's get to some knowledge, and I'm going to try to be brief. Okay. All right. The intersection of education, civic participation, and diaspora engagement reflects a dynamic and multifaceted relationship that influences individuals and communities on both a local and global scale. And I'm going to give an overview of how these three components connect and reinforce each other. Number one, education as a foundation. Of course, we have empowerment through knowledge. Education equips individuals with knowledge, skills, and critical thinking necessary for informed civic participation. Through education, individuals learn about governance, civic rights and responsibilities, and the importance of community engagement. Cultural preservation and identity formation. Very important, very huge one. Now, for members of the diaspora, education can serve as a tool to preserve cultural identity while also integrating into the host country's social and political framework. This dual identity is crucial for diaspora members as they navigate multiple allegiances and experiences. Number two, civic participation. It's a platform for engagement. Political and social involvement. Civic participation involves engagement in political processes, community organizing, and social movements. It is often through education that individuals learn how to participate effectively in their communities, whether by voting, volunteering, or leading grassroots initiatives. Number three, diaspora's role in civic spaces. Diaspora communities often engage in civic participation both in their host countries and their countries of origin. This dual participation can manifest in voting, advocacy, or mobilizing resources to influence policies and support community development efforts back home. Number four, advocacy for rights and integration, which is where I'm huge at. Education plays a key role in enabling diasporic populations to advocate for their rights within their host countries, whether that means fighting for immigration reform, social services, or equitable representation. Now, talking about constitution, we need a constitutional overhaul in Nigeria, period. The chapter 2 of the Constitution talks about the inalienable rights of the Nigerian citizen. But right next to it, section 6, subsection, why should a Nigerian be careful? I like to speak with those in government. Why should a Nigerian be careful to speak freely in a nation where we all can agree that Nigeria is a beautiful country? Nigerians all over the world are doing things that we should be proud of. Now, faint-hearted Nigerians are scared to speak because either you speak or you go and then you go to jail, or you can even be killed. I came to Nigeria about 2019 to see two governors, and they met me at the airport with motorcades and security, and I said, I'm not used to that. I grew up in Nigeria. I don't need this. They tell me, well, Doc, listen, it's insecurity. How did we get here? I wanted us to have a chat. How did Nigeria get here? So in conclusion, Mr. Kayode, I hope this is going to be a long-lasting relationship between you and I, because I am happy that you have your platform for people like me to come and speak out and speak truth to power. And those of us, and those of the people who are in the Nigerian government, people who speak and you arrest them and you sue them and you take them to court for treason, that is wrong, so to speak. That is really wrong. That is wrong. So if I can address whoever is doing this, it needs to come to an end ASAP. Thank you.
So much, Dr. Ed. Thank you so very much. Thank you very much, Dr. Ed. very quickly, we're winding down, but we still have a few contributors who will be speaking. I would like to crave your indulgence again that as we are winding down, you please reduce the length of your speeches to 2, if possible, or 3 minutes. Next, I would like to call Professor Monday Gold, who is the President, Ijaw Diaspora Council. Now, he's speaking on the political representation, civic engagement, and the influence of the diaspora community in shaping governance and democracy in their countries of origin. Please can we put our hands together for Professor as he comes forward.
Thank you. My name is Gold, and I just want to first and foremost say to Dr. Oby, you don't know me, you've not seen me before, that the Ijaw Diaspora embraces your vision. And as the chairman of NADECO in the United States, I also want to let you know we love you. I know that there are major problems in Nigeria. The president is doing a fantastic job for a group of Nigerians, and we applaud them. But 95% of the Nigerian diasporans, 95% are not happy. And the evidence is here. I have direct communication with the leadership of NIDO. I know the previous president, I know the current chairman, the previous chairman and the current chairman. We have this scanty participation today because individuals in Nigeria are into engaging in divisive practices. And so today, NIDO is not as effective as it used to be. If NIDO had lived up to his expectations, things would have been different. Now, the issues we have in Nigeria, to a very large extent, is because the Nigerian diaspora is not united. We have different organizations. We are quick to embrace success without working for it. If a Nigerian, now when people say Nigerians are educated, that is true because I have 2 PhDs. That is true because my daughter has 2 PhDs. But it's not only about education. There are things we want to do. So I want to be as practical as I can. And let's see what I want to say. Number 1, you cannot have the Nigerians in Diaspora Commission without a board. Maybe I'm the one I have not been able to see that. The Nigerians in Diaspora Commission has been in existence for quite a number of years. Why are we not following the act that created that commission? Now, if you have been running around Goodluck Jonathan and the president thereafter, and nothing is happening, you got to ask yourself some tough questions. Am I doing the right thing? Now, please permit me to speak as a family member. Because if you continue to do the old things, repeating things that you've done over and over without success, and it's only necessary that you look inward and do things differently. So, ladies and gentlemen, this is what I want to submit to you. Number 1, the board of the Nigerians in diaspora has to be constituted without further delay. Number 2, the Nigerians in diaspora must represent the 7th zone in Nigeria. We need to be represented at both assemblies, the National Assembly, the Senate, and the House of Representatives. Why? Because we've done since 1999 the same things over and over. Nothing is happening. So it's time for change. All right. The next thing, if they continue to move in the same direction, it's time has come for the Nigerians to create their own commission, election commission, and vote for the next coming president. Now, this idea has been practiced elsewhere. We might not have the authority to say, we have voted for President John Doe and he should be the president. But we can say, this is the president of our choice. Yes. We need to be involved in a way that will represent our contribution. As someone from the Niger Delta, we have our own problems, environmental justice. But voting rights is equally important. You cannot separate millions of Nigerians and prevent them from voting, and you turn around and say, you are practicing true democracy. It's not going to work. We must be carried along. Now, everybody in this room today, please find time to align your vision and priorities with fixed politics. Yes, please do so. Please do so. Please do so, because if we work together, give her the necessary support, things will be different. I have about 5 pages of my speech in my pocket. But let me quickly, give me 1 minute. I want to make sure, because the global population, the global citizens are listening to us, I want to make sure I summarize what I have written down carefully. As a professor, we speak for too long, but please permit me. Let me repeat myself. Let me repeat myself so that listen, this is the only one of the few administrations where voting rights must be done for the Nigerian diaspora. We have the chief of staff, we have a president, and so many other officials that went to school outside Nigeria. So if they cannot do it right, then I don't know how we're going to do it. But listen, they don't take the Nigerian diaspora seriously. And that seriousness calls for us working together. I look forward to speaking with you again. Again, my name is Monday Gold. God bless America.
Thank you so much, Professor Monday Gold. Thank you so much. Now I'm inspired to be a doctor and a professor, as a matter of fact. But we'll go. I have a sister-in-law who is a doctor, reading to be a doctor, and I'm begging her not to give up because she needs to speak like this someday. Now, just before we have just a few more speakers before we wrap up, but I would like to go back to Honorable Abike Dabiri-Erewa, who is in Abuja, Nigeria, to just respond to some of the things that have been said before we conclude over here. If we have her, we'll go directly to her. She spoke earlier, for the benefit of those who were not here when she spoke. She spoke about NIDCOM and then spoke about some of the challenges that's delaying the passing of that bill, or should I say delaying the fact that Nigerians in diaspora should be able to vote. So if we have Dr. Abike Dabiri on screen, I would like us to take her very quickly.
Thank you very much. It's been a very interesting conversation, and I'm glad. Thank you once more, Mr. Kayode Akitemi and New Central, for putting this together. So just quick remarks, a few quick comments. From our last speaker, President Ijo Federation, I think you touched the right part, unity. If there's no unity in the diaspora, then nobody will take you seriously. And I said it, that channel energy to something as productive as diaspora voting. You are a leader there. So you also work with others to ensure there's unity. I keep saying that I don't have the energy to be settled quarrels. So please, as leaders there, NIDO has how many factions in America? 3 factions in America, 4 in Africa. So the ball is actually in your court. Work together as diaspora leaders. And again, the NIDCOM board, I believe that it's the responsibility of the president to set up a board, not me as chairman NIDCOM. But I'm hoping that hopefully NIDCOM will have a board, because it's going to help our work. Imagine we had, and the board, for those of you in the hall, says there'll be 2 representatives per continent. So we look forward to that, because that helps us to even do our jobs better. So I look forward to that, and we hope that that happens. The lady, very interesting young lady, please come and run. But you can't run in America. You have to come back home and join the local politics and be part of it. But I will encourage you to come and run, because like you said, you can't leave your own destiny to people that you know you can do better than. And there are a lot of diasporas that are coming home to run, and others that encourage you. But you need to, come home. Even before you do that, come home from time to time, get involved with your community. Things are changing. People will vote for you because of you. So I look forward to that. Then the person who spoke about data, we actually do have data now. That's part of what NIDCOM is doing. We're gathering data. We have the data portal, and I can tell you some of the professionals anywhere in the world. But it's a process that has just begun. NIDCOM is just 5 years old. It's one of the critical things. We do have data, professionals, and I hope we have your own data, because I'm sure you have not registered on the portal. So we look forward to everybody registering on the portal. Yeah, and our sister, please, when you come to Nigeria, I'd like to see you. We have a program for the historic African diaspora. So when you come, please, we'd love to host you and share more conversations, particularly about love, unity, and having a heart for the people. I really appreciated what you said. And finally, I think that's all on the issue of unity, NIDO data mapping. And then I think somebody there talked about we don't have a nation. So why are we having this conversation? I think I heard that because, sometimes I didn't see the vision. Why do we have a nation? Then why are we talking about diaspora voting? Whoever made that remark has already condemned the issue of diaspora voting. You've said we don't have a nation. You said we don't have election. So why are you? That means you are contradicting what we're fighting for here. What you're already saying is what I hear from people who say, oh, no diaspora voting. So why are we having this conversation if we don't have a nation? I'll end on the note of unity that we have heard here. We should stop denigrating ourselves. You have to hold government accountable, particularly in the diaspora. You have to do it. We have to encourage that. But someday we'll get there. But let's stop denigrating ourselves. We don't have a nation. We have to build a nation together. As leaders, we don't talk like that. Build a nation together, and we'll build that nation together. And I look forward to diaspora voting. It will happen in my lifetime. And it will happen, hopefully, in the lifetime of this parliament. They'll be making history. And it will happen, and I hope that it happens under President Bola Ahmed Tinubu. Thank you very much for inviting me. I have to leave now. I've already given my apologies, but it's a beautiful conversation. I look forward to more of this conversation. Frank and, very impactful. Thank you very much, and God bless you.
Nigeria, we all know that Nigeria is not what we used to know. And anybody can deceive himself if you believe otherwise. Nigeria has gone to an enterprise of criminality. And we all know that. If anybody is here trying to deceive himself that we are not into criminality, we're not having a dialogue. There's no point of having this conversation. The conversation should start not by the voting of diaspora means nothing. If the people in Nigeria can vote and their votes don't count, what are we, diasporans, attempting to do here? It's a waste of time. I didn't want to come here, believe me, but I chose to come because you can't fight from the outside, they gotta be inside.
Recording in progress.
So, me being here is to let you people know this is a good conversation. However, we have no foundation to build on. The foundation is flawed. We know what's going on in Nigeria today. There's no logistics, there's no security. If there's no security, there's no election. We know for a fact that what we have in Nigeria today, most of the time, if you speak your mind, if you get to Nigeria, I've been arrested twice in Nigeria by DSS. But it won't stop me speaking. We know for a fact that what we have is oligarchy in Nigeria. Look at what happened at Edo State. Somebody promised the people that he would give them the state, and it did happen, as he said. So we are not here attempting to deceive ourselves. Let's face facts. The facts are there for everybody to look at. And we can bow our heads in shame if we don't do what's necessary to get ourselves out of this mess. Shame on us. So the reality is, we are here converging, believing that we can make a difference from diaspora. I don't believe so. The difference we have to make is from back home. It has to start from back home. Then we go back home, because why am I voting here? What's the point voting here? We have to go create foundation, the possibility for those who vote for their vote to count. Nobody's vote counts in Nigeria. We know that. It's a sham, complete sham. There's no election in Nigeria. We know that. So if we talking about voting rights of diaspora, it's a waste of time. We should be honest to ourselves. I'd rather not speak than not speak my mind. The fact remains that we don't have an election. We have selections. And we all know that. We know what's happened in the last election. It's going to repeat in 2027. I've been approached by NNPP, all the local politicians coming to New York. I don't want to talk to them because I'm a community activist. I'm not interested in politics. I'm interested in my people, all Nigerians. So I will rest my case here. There's no security, there's no election. And I don't want to speak more, because if I go more, I will say something violent. Thank you, guys.
Thank you so much, Dr. Innocent. Thank you so much. We're gradually winding down, but you can see that there is passion in the words and in the voices of people, and that's because things are not the way they should be, and that's actually why we are here. Quickly winding down, as I mentioned earlier, we have Claudine Moore, who's with us. Claudine is Managing Director, Africa Allison, and there was a gathering of business, I would say business moguls, a lot of them young people recently, and Claudine Moore is one of those who, was the conveners of that particular gathering. Claudine is not Nigerian, but she's Nigerian at heart. Please come forward, Claudine. Thank you so much. She's been to Nigeria several times in the past 10 years, and she knows a lot about the country. And we're glad to have her contribution. Thank you so much.
Good afternoon, everybody. So thank you for having me. Thank you for inviting the non-Nigerian to come to the stage. It's appreciated. So as mentioned, my name is Claudine Moore. I'm the Managing Director of Allison. I'm a Managing Director of Africa at Allison, which is a global public relations company. Since 2011, I have been working in Nigeria and across Africa, but specifically in Nigeria, where I have been at least 40 times since 2011. So my passport is stamped with lots of green stamps. So you're right, I'm an honorary Nigerian. And I've been given lots of Nigerian names, and I'm taking more. So feel free to give me another Nigerian name. I also spent some time living in Nigeria for 2 years, just under 2 years, when I was leading the global communications for Tony Elumelu. And in fact, my very first trip, as I mentioned, was in 2011, and that was when I first met the Honourable Abike Dabiri, who has become a dear friend over the years. She's been very encouraging of the work that I do, and she was actually my very first trip in 2011. I met her there. So earlier there was the mention of partnerships, of the importance of partnerships, and I want to extend that further and speak about the importance of building bridges. I stand before you as an example of that, and also to broaden the horizon of what we are referring to as the diaspora for the benefit of Nigeria and Africa as a whole. But first, speaking with my PR hat on, I want to first speak to the importance of how to engage the Nigerian diaspora. I'm a PR and communications person, expert, leader, and really, it's almost that you have to approach engaging the diaspora pretty much as you would a product or a campaign. So specifically in advertising, comms and PR, we always start with why. Simon Sinek wrote this book that said, start with why. And there is so much going on in the countries where the diaspora actually lives, which we all know as immigrants, living in America, living in the UK, living abroad as immigrants has its challenges. Therefore, to engage the diaspora to focus on back home when that same diaspora has challenges in their adopted homes, you really have to connect with them on an emotional level, which is one-on-one of PR and communications. And you have to answer the question as to why. Why should the diaspora care? Why is it important for them to come back home? And how, when they come back home, how are they supported? So when they come back home, how, from their respective industries, fields, sectors, how are they able to plug back into those respective sectors and areas in which they want to work when they come back home? How is that done? The Honourable Abike Dabiri already does what I'm about to speak about, but she does this, but as a PR person, I encourage this to be extended, to be continued and approached in a broader way. And that is, as I mentioned, connecting with the diaspora as a campaign and really meet the diaspora where they are. Do some further research. I was excited to hear that there was research being done, but no campaign in reaching a target audience is done without doing research. So lean into that research, find out the concerns, the interest, the challenges, etc., and leverage that research to inform strategic campaigns, almost like you would do selling a product. You're selling a product of being back home in Nigeria. How do you do that? And again, leveraging best practices in PR and communications. And then finally, broadening the horizon of what partnerships and building bridges looks like. I am not Nigerian. I was born and raised in the UK. My background is Caribbean, Barbados and Jamaica. But my family, my parents specifically, are big Pan-Africanists. I grew up with legends like Kwame Nkrumah, Marcus Garvey, where we were taught, my family, we were all taught that you're black, therefore you're African. So from when I was very, very small, I've always had the self-actualization and the knowledge that I'm a black woman, so therefore I'm an African. If somebody walks in this room, they see a room full of Africans, they don't see a room full of Africans and one strange Jamo on the stage. They don't see that. Okay, so just leaning into that, and as I said, I've been working in Nigeria for many, many years, and as Bernard said, black lives don't matter until African lives matter, and I truly believe, which is why I've taken my expertise and leveraged my expertise in PR and communications towards the socio-economic development of the continent, which conversely means Nigeria. There's no Africa without Nigeria, of course. You all know that because you're all Nigerians. I know you like to hear that. That's probably something that you like to hear. But we all have our piece of our puzzle in the socio-economic development of the continent. My piece is just the expertise and experience I have in public relations and communications. And I truly believe that the global self-esteem of the black world will not truly reach self-actualization until Africa gets it right. So when Bernard said black lives don't matter until African lives matter, he was absolutely right. And what that means in actual terms is taking me as an example, embracing the broader term of the diaspora, building partnerships and building bridges so that we can advance Nigeria and also advance Africa as a whole together with your broader cousins in the diaspora. Thank you very much.
Claudine, thank you so much. Barbados, Jamaican, the UK, Nigerian, Ghanaian. You are more Nigerian than every one of us seated here, to be honest. Thank you so much. But for those of us who missed Dr. Oby Ezekwesili's opening remark, I would like to hand the mic over to her just for a quick one before she leaves. She's somebody who can have the mic, like someone said, all day and will not get tired. But just before she leaves, I would like to hand over the mic. And Ma, please, before you go, speak a little pidgin. I want to hear it again.
Yes, I would. Yes, it really has been a productive use of our time to gather and have this conversation. Like I said in my opening remarks, conversations are important, and the thing about building democratic resilience and maturing democracy is the capacity of each of us to have conversations where we disagree, but we're not disagreeable. To have conversations where we object to what the other person is saying, and yet we're not objectionable. So, for example, One of the things that we heard was Pastor Chinedu Ezekwesili saying, we need to go from country to nation. It's a simple thing. I mean, when you look at academic discourse, it states clearly that there are metrics on the basis of which a country as a geographical entity begins to transit into nation. These things are very important, and currently they are missing. They are missing. Nations are countries that have been able, especially because they are not monogeneous. Okay? If they are monogeneous, you don't need to differentiate between country and nation. They're already country, nation. Why? Because they have the same shared values, which normally get expressed in the form of their culture. So their values, which come from their culture, basically unite them behind a set of things that matter for them, on their ethos, their principles, their precepts, and all of those things that are very important, because these are the intangibles that determine how a people make their choices. And then a second thing they normally would have is a national vision, meaning they have agreed that this is where we're all going. This is who we want to be. This is our agenda amongst ourselves, agreed thing that says this is our vision, a common vision. And then they have a third thing, a country of people who have agreed that despite our different affiliations, Christian, Muslim, man, woman, girl, boy, ideologies and all of those things, all kinds of identities, multiple identities, and yet they have agreed amongst themselves that there is a common identity that all of us subscribe to, and we will defend it everywhere. So in the case of Nigeria, we just simply say, I am Nigerian, period. But that doesn't mean that I am not Christian. That doesn't mean that I am not an Igbo person. That doesn't mean that I am not a woman, but I am Nigerian. And that has to be agreed often on the basis of certain metrics that they agree will bind them together as Nigerians. Now, the reason that our country has been wobbly is because these three things, which are called nation formation factors, these are factors of nation formation. We don't have them. We don't have them. The country is wobbly. You see people have discussions that are too divisive, and they are questioning all kinds of things about Nigeria. We now need that conversation, and something that an amendment of the Constitution is sufficient. I am one of those. I don't believe that this marginal tinkering of the Constitution will give us these three things as ingredients for nation formation. And so one thing that is very clear is that there is a lot more conversations to be had. And we need to thank Kayode Akintemi for continually making the space available for us to have these kinds of conversations. I believe that Nigeria will transit from country to nation. I believe that. The people who create polarization are not the normal everyday Nigerians in the market spaces. They are collaborating and cooperating. It is these political rascals that we have in our country and in other countries of our continent that divides the people. It is political rascality, and they benefit from it to create polarization And when the people finally get their voice and collectively act, they will put these ones who are in the minority where they belong. And the people include you as diaspora. And that's the point I was making. You are powerful beyond measure. Some of you need to begin to remember that those you're sending stipends to cannot survive on stipends for the rest of their life. There has to be good governance. Good governance will mean that they can be productive and become economic agents in the country itself. And that requires that you should get them to understanding the power that they have as citizens to demand for good governance. Let me end it on this note. You know, in governance, governance is like a product. It's like a service. For a product or service, there is always a demand and there is a supply. Now, if those who demand for a product are ready to take any quality of that product that is given to them, what do you think the producer will do? They'll produce any quality. The suppliers, they will supply you any quality because you don't care. But the day that you as a consumer, as someone who makes a demand for the product, you say, the quality of the product that I want is this. What do you think will happen? The suppliers will up the ante. So what's missing right now is that we as a people, not just in Nigeria, but across the continent, we're saying to the suppliers of governance, give us anything, we're okay. And the group of people who can change this, you're right here. The diaspora, the money that you're sending home needs to speak even through the people that you're sending the monies to. You need to do a lot of political literacy. And to that issue of whether our votes count, the truth is, our votes will not count until it comes to the point where the middle class of our countries stop hoping that the low-income class will fight in order to get democracy working. The middle class is the most irresponsible class in our country today. Because as far as they are concerned, life is good. How can you say that life is good? How? The middle class, I don't want trouble. So Remi Adamolekun should go and make trouble on your behalf. Aisha Yusufu should make trouble on your behalf. The middle class cannot stand not being at the table of where filthy lucre is being distributed. Now, oh, well, she says it's national cake. So what do you think they do? They hide away. Let somebody else do the fighting. Who are you waiting for? What the middle class has not realized, and we show that through data of the research I did, which is the basis of what my dear Professor Gold, he's gone, you know, he was talking about. I did a research called Fixed Politics, and that research shows clearly that the middle class will continue to pretend that poor governance will not affect it until it affects it. Who do you think, which class do you think is complaining the most about the price of food in Nigeria today? The middle class. Now let me tell you something. The moment the middle class of any society begin to worry about the price of food, it's over. Because food is not the most important expenditure of the middle class. Now when food begins to go out of the reach of a middle class, it's over. How did this happen? Because the middle class, while being irresponsible in its lethargy, apathy, and total indifference to poor governance of the society, was somehow hoping that they would be okay. And so they abandoned the low-income class in their misery and simply said, we have voted out of the issues that matter for effective governance of the country. You represent a remnant of this middle class that I'm talking about. Can I tell you something? Even if you're doing okay as a middle class, you are only 2 cousins away from poverty. Because if you're not poor, and your first cousin is not poor, by the time we get to your second cousin, there's poverty in your family. And so, there is a necessity for us to comprehensively engage in the complete, important conversation to get ourselves a nation out of a country. And that will happen with all of us working together.
Thank you so much, Dr. Oby. Thank you so much. Her words are as piercing as they are scary, to be honest. As piercing as they are scary. There's no greater truth. As we are wrapping this up, I have just a few more people, and I would like to beg that we keep it very short. I'd first like to call Dr. Uchai Odims. And I'm calling him on because there is no way we can talk about, improvement of Nigerians in diaspora or voting without talking about strengthening the bond between Nigeria and its diaspora. So if Dr. Uchai is around, Dr. Uchai, I beg your pardon.
Good day, everybody. I actually want to say a special thank you to Uncle K. That's what we call him. I remember when we had a program in Ghana, it was on the same thing. Okay, I represent the GIAA, Global Initiative for Advancement of Africa, and also the Africa Women Impact Summit organization. We've been doing a lot of program across different countries, UK, Germany, and all, on how to advance business and trade. And apart from that, also pushing the agenda of the Africa we want. So, there's something very interesting about what's going on here. I like the fact that some people are coming to terms to reality. There's something I prepared to speak on, but looking at time and all, I'm going to say something from my heart, not as a professor, but as a practitioner. There's no need us deceiving ourselves. That's the truth. We need to understand that until the diaspora take her place. Do you know something? A lot of people in Nigeria are actually drawing strength and inspiration from you there in the diaspora. So if the diaspora gives up, then forget about it. There's no Nigeria without the diaspora. I mean, a place like United States or America or UK that's sensing, look at diaspora remittance. We're talking about 20-something billion. How much is our budget? So when people from here are like, oh, no, I'm not good, because things are good here. Let me tell you something. No matter what you do in America, in UK, you are a third-class citizen. That's the truth. Don't get it twisted. You are enjoying free electricity, having fun. You are eating all the burgers and all the rest. Of course, I came in America. I want to eat some very good African food and all. You guys are having fun and the rest of it. You are a third class or fourth class citizens. That's the truth. We need to look into our nation. Nigeria is bleeding. Things are going hey. That's the truth. Anybody that tells you that things are okay in Nigeria, you are a joker. I live in Nigeria. We do all the global conferences. But when I think about my country, I weep. And that's the truth. We need to get things right. Nigerians in diaspora, rise up. People are looking up to you. You need to inspire your people back home. And the time to do it is now. Whoever you are, let me tell you something. Anybody, they say he that, he that blows the piper dictates the tune. Am I right? Once you are the one bringing out the money, there's no way you're not going to influence your cousin or your brother back home in Nigeria. So why am I saying this? Let's wake up to that time. Now, talking about Nigeria and all, we need to change a lot of things. Somebody made a statement and said that we are going to make amendments in the Senate, do this and the rest of it and whatever, about the diaspora voting. Now, let me tell you something. There is www.world wide web. This is not in those days. We are not in the 17th century and all. We are now in 21st century. Things can be amended. I was so surprised that we got the national anthem, new national anthem of Nigeria in less than 48 hours. Who is deceiving who now? Who is deceiving who?
So now this is the time. Diaspora must vote. And diaspora, please don't give up on Nigeria. That's the truth. Right now, everybody is talking about all the things happening in Nigeria. We have overnight voting. We have all the mysterious selection going on and the rest of it. But the only way this can happen is if we rise. I am proud to be a Nigerian. I am proud to be an African. Yesterday we were on the road in New York and I heard some people, white people, singing to Davido's song. Yeah. On the road, they were busy dancing. Why is it that, see, listen, there's some disaster that's going on right now in Georgia and all. I heard about it and all. Now, you hear about Hurricane Katrina. They have all kinds of names. Hurricane, no, in Nigeria, we call it Hurricane Unwosu. Thank God we don't have hurricane in Nigeria. In America, all kinds of hurricane, all kinds of stuff going on and all. The only disaster we have in Nigeria is leadership disaster. Leadership hurricane, and we have to change it. Africa is a great continent. Nigeria is a, how many of you love Nigeria? Lift up your hand and say, I'm proud of Nigeria. No, if you love Nigeria, lift up your hand and wave it as we are worshiping God. Say, I'm proud of Nigeria. Let's join our hands together and fight the political class that has held Nigeria hostage. And with that, we are going to have the Africa we want, and we're going to have the Africa of our dream, and we're going to have the Nigeria that we'll all be proud of. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much.
Thank you so much, sir. Thank you so much, sir. Thank you so much. Thank you so much, sir. In a very short, in a few months, this is the second time I'm hearing somebody say that the only natural disaster we have is bad leadership, which means it's actually true. I would quickly like to call on Chief Mrs. Bukola Shonuga, who is representing NIDO Americas, to also give us 2 minutes of her time as we're gradually wrapping it up. I know we've been here for quite a while, a bit longer than we budgeted to be, but please, we crave your indulgence. Thank you so much, ma'am.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Ekason is what we say in Yoruba. And I would actually like to first pay homage to my sister here. We've never met in person. Madam Obiageli Ezekwesili. I really admire you for so many years. I've seen you, your activism, I identify. I really appreciate everything you have done for Nigeria. And I'm really glad to meet you in person. Thank you. So I'm representing, I am Nigeria, and the change begins with me. I am a very proud Nigerian, and I've lived in the US for 42 years, but my heart is always home. So let me start by saying thank you, everyone, and good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. I'm Chief Mrs. Keynote Shonuga, and on behalf of NIDO Americas and Honorable Victor Obani, NIDO Worldwide Chairman, I want to welcome you all and thank the organizer of this event for the invitation. In spite of everything you might have heard about Nigeria, about NIDO and so on, some of us are still here. Since the inception of NIDO, we're still here. So NIDO is a non-profit and the umbrella organization for all Nigerian professionals in the diaspora, in the Americas, with a mission to promote the spirit of patriotism, networking, and cooperation among Nigerians in the diaspora for individual and collective success, while harnessing their expertise toward national development. As an organization, we pool our resources to foster solutions to the myriad of challenges facing Nigeria while empowering the youth for development. NIDO launched the first information, communication, and technology training program in Nigeria in 2016. Over 250 participants attended. We partnered with the Plateau State University, Bokos in 2023, and 350 participants completed the ICT program. The 2024 ICT program was held in Abuja FTC in partnership with the government and also at the Moshood Abiola Polytechnic in Abeokuta, Mapoli, with the support of the Ministry of Education, Science and Technology. NIDO Americas conceived the Nigerians in Diaspora Commission, NIDCOM, and wrote the draft and legal instrument leading up to the Act establishment signed into law on June 30th, 2017 by Professor Yemi Oshibajo, then the acting president. In addition, NIDO Americas conceived and wrote the proposal for the 300 million bond, the first Nigeria diaspora bond that was later traded on the main market of the London Stock Exchange in June 2017, a milestone achievement. these are all facts. Not disinformation, not misinformation. These are facts. And these were now written for me. I am part of this movement, and I was the founder or a co-founder of NIDO New York, president of NIDO. I was the president for 2 terms, and I'm also currently on the board of trustees of NIDO Americas. So when we talk about Nigerians in diaspora, we are Nigerians in diaspora. And the reason why NIDO has now really, how do I say, achieved its goals that it's intended to is, again, the division that's, amongst us. Not only in America, but all around the world. There's just something about Nigerians that we tended not to agree to disagree and vice versa. But all the same, we're still here. We love Nigeria. I just spent 2.5 months in Nigeria. I love my country. And the demographic that I represent, I'm a grandma, proudly so. The demographic that I represent, we came here from 1975 to 1985. We have now, we're now grandparents, I just said. And we are a gift that kept giving to this country. So America did not make us, right? The cultural values and the, how do I put it, let me just talk about cultural values that we were raised with. That was what we brought to America to go to school here and succeed, right? So if Nigeria did not prepare us and we didn't come from good homes and the good culture and the whole thing, we wouldn't have succeeded in this country, right? Yes, we appreciate America. We appreciate what we have also contributed a great deal, and our children continue to do that. It's a gift, again, that kept giving. And now what we're saying to our age bracket, I'm 65 years old, proudly so, is it's time to go home and give back. You cannot continue to complain and condemn the government. The government, they are in the business of government, right? And you stay here, you're complaining. Go home, especially at this age. What are you doing here? I know thousands of Nigerians that are in my age bracket that wake up every day. They're taking care of their grandchildren. They're done. We're asking you to join NIDO. Stop complaining. Stop dividing. Get up and stand up and do something and stop complaining, right? It starts right here. The NIDCOM that Honorable Abike Dabiri talked about, we drafted that document. We were part of making sure that document was signed into law. But when it comes to appointing, what that appointing would be, the NIDO representative in the diaspora that's supposed to constitute this board, they failed to invite us. We're supposed to be at the table. We bought the chair, we did everything. But it still wouldn't constitute the board to properly function to achieve the goal that NIDCOM was set up to be. And that's why one of the reasons why we're still here. So I am not, and we are not, the NIDO that I am part of, there are so many NIDOs in all divisions, we want one house. We continue to work hard to make sure that we have one house, regardless of all our differences. Look at the way America is now. What we want is unity and peace and love. But we cannot get that without action, right? I was part of the UN General Assembly, I'm sorry, give me just one more second. The youngest 79 that took place in New York this week. And one person also that I admire so much is Dr. Adeshina, the Africa Development Bank's president. He's another optimist about Africa. All he offers, or ADB offers, solution. So our people in Nigeria, they're waiting for us. Again, I'm an optimist. Let's come together. If you don't have a NIDO chapter in your region, please contact us. Let us help you form one. NIDO New York, NIDO New Jersey. There are 6 regions of NIDO worldwide. We just worked with Honorable Abike Dabiri this past summer. In spite of everything that's happening or whatever people are complaining, we're still finding a way to go forward, to move forward. For the sake of our country, I love my country. Thank you all.
Thank you so much, ma'am. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. There is strength in NIDO, and we have to build that strength together. As we wrap this up, I have 2 more people I'd like to take. One is here, and one is virtual. And then there are 3 people who have raised their hands. Just one minute each, please. We are way past our time. But this person I would like to call next, I would like you to see her and listen to her speak. She has refused, but she would come. Yemi Adamoleko is the face of Enough is Enough movement in Nigeria. For those of you who are in America here, you may not know, but this young woman here you are looking at is one of the people who have been fighting the cause of Nigerians in Nigeria. I have come across her several times. People have been arrested, people have been accosted by the authorities, but this woman has never closed her mouth. Please listen to her. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. What I wanted to say has been said by a few others, but just wanted to reiterate it. Nigeria is far from perfect, as you said, and I do my own share of pointing out at the issues. As Auntie Obi said, some of people have outsourced advocacy to people like me. But we must always confidently move in the direction of what we're aspiring to. If we're waiting for perfect conditions, a country to be a nation, or elections to count, then we won't do anything. Number one. Number two, if we don't know anything, I just need to remind you, no one is going to fix Nigeria. Absolutely no one. So if those of us who are living at home and those of us who are in the diaspora, we must be clear about what we want. And if there's no clarity around what Nigeria has to offer, what Nigeria has given, and what Nigeria is, we will continue to deceive ourselves. Auntie Obi talks about it. There's a demand side, citizens. There's a supply side of leadership. And of course, then our institutions, so our votes can actually count. But if INEC is being silly, does that mean I shouldn't exercise my right to vote? I will vote. But part of voting is also ensuring that those votes do count, because we insist that they must count. So, a lot has been said already, but I really just want to encourage people that for those in the diaspora, if you want to run, you have to come home. You don't have to come home. You can stay in the diaspora because we contribute to the world globally. But as Auntie Obi said again, I keep repeating what she's saying, you can't send money home and think that is enough. It's not. Let your money be your voice, not just in the stipends you send to family members, but in using your money to show that, you know what, I am Nigerian and I will be heard. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. I did promise very quickly we're going to Dr. Dayo Olomu, who's the chair Black on Board community in the UK. He's joining us online. He's speaking very quickly on leadership development, preparing the next generation of diaspora advocates. If we have Dr. Dayo, let's go ahead with him. And after Dr. Dayo, we have Dr. Bashir. Okay, I hear that we have Dr. Let's go straight to Dr. Bashir then, who is also joining us online.
It's actually a pleasure being here. And I'm Dr. Bashir Obashikola. I'm the Continental Chairman of Nigerian Diaspora Organization in Europe. It's quite interesting listening to various aspects of this issue of diaspora voting and the impact and the global impact of Nigerian diaspora generally. I don't want to repeat what most have been said. I listened very carefully to Auntie Obi and Sister Abike Dabiri. I think the issue has always been that there are different aspects to the same issue, and the loss of the tempo that we had during Obasanjo's time, when he also went around the world, mobilizing and encouraging Nigerians to belong to Nigerian Diaspora Organization, and the request subsequently from us to be part of the political movement in Nigeria in terms of voting. We lost that tempo, because he left office, and of course the subsequent governments had their own priorities. And of course, the National Assembly, Honorable Abike Dabiri, we also tried to, but we lost, the tempo, and as a result, we are where we are. So it's a good thing. So I want to, appreciate what the New Central is doing in terms of also amplifying the narrative, the discussion around this topic. And I think it is very important for us, even though we had setbacks in previous, administration and all the attempts at, amending the Constitution to give the right to vote to the diaspora. So, and I think it is good that we maintain that despite the setback, we should maintain the discussion around it and continue to pressure the government officials and the National Assembly, who are, constitutionally given the right to amend the enabling laws that will allow us to vote. And I think it is also very important that we in the diaspora also know what we want, because I've listened to various aspects, various discussion and contribution being made today. And I can also see that since we are also digressing, we need to face one thing at a time. because if you are talking about, using our vote to, to change the narrative in Nigeria, democracy, landscape in Nigeria, then we must maintain, the dignity of our role. We need to let them know that we are not there, we are not coming as a destructive force, because that is what is scaring them. I mean, the political class. Because they say where there is wind, there is also a wind. All these constitutional amendments, this is, the law is not enabling us here and there. And I think some of them are excuses. The reason behind the delay and some of the problems we are encountering in this process is because of the way they perceive us coming. Some have said, they're going to dilute the voting pattern in Nigeria. They're going to do this, they're going to do that. Yeah, we know there will be such a, thing, but one thing which we, the diaspora, are bringing on is to improve, to modernize our system. We are not coming as destructive, but rather we want to improve. Many countries in the world, if you look at their history, most of the development, what I can say, speed at which they do it was mainly because of their country or their diasporans. They come even in political aspect, in the economic aspect, in the social aspect. We all come with all and gathering all the knowledge and all this thing that we have from where various aspects, where various countries we are, and contribute that to the development of Nigeria. And I think that is the narrative. So we should also see ourselves as, partners of progress. Yes, Nigeria is not perfect yet. We have a lot
Dr. Bashir, we need to wrap up, please.
Yeah, we have a lot of issues, and I believe that we should concentrate on mobilizing ourselves and united, we in front in the diaspora, to see us, through in this struggle for diaspora voting. So I thank everyone for being part of this discussion, and I think it is a continuous thing. And I believe that we in the diaspora also will continue to do all what we can in terms of developing our minds and also our people in Nigeria to see that we have a place called Nigeria that we can develop and not to destroy. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, sir. Thank you so much, sir. As we gradually come to the end of this, there were 3 people who said they wanted to speak, and I would like to keep my promise. Just 1 minute. As we gradually come to the end of this, there were 3 people who said they wanted to speak, and I would like to keep my promise. I'm so sorry, but please, they will hear. There's still people here.
Anyway, you see, we're African people. We have to forget that we're African people. Before you start any meeting, anyway, you see, we're African people. We have to forget that we're African people. Before you start any meeting, you call on the spirit of Africa. You call on the spirit of our ancestors. You call on all these to represent, to be with us, to empower us in everything we do. We don't just start having a meeting without calling on the spirit of our ancestors, And then if we elect anybody into the office, call the traditional leaders. They got to pour libation. Tell the person, okay, you're going to represent us for this. Swear that whatever you do, you're not going to go against us. You go against what we said, you're going to pay for it. So that way, if you elect any politician or anybody, they are there to represent you. They do exactly what you ask them to do. Because the spirit of our ancestors are there. But we have forgotten, before the Christianity or Islam came, we were originally African people. And we have to come back to that originality. Very, very important. It will help us in everything we do. We are African people.
We have your name before you.
My name is Adichie. Adichie Agoyego from Onitsha, Anambra State, 50 years in New York. Thank you.
And we keep on kicking the ball down the road and bringing it back. What is that aspect? So a few years ago, we called some of the assemblymen, both the 2 houses, who voted for and who voted against. And this is what we need to do. Most times we are so revisionist that we don't look at the real substance of what is happening. Most of the people who are in the assembly, they are lawyers, and most of them also schooled abroad and have children abroad. Let's do the needful, and that is possibly one of the needful. Ask what they present this bill 6 times already, and nobody has corrected that. And the same thing goes for so many areas of our economy. So we in the diaspora, we should go to the next level of not just being pragmatic, but look behind the lines. The money we're sending home is for our parents. And I tell you the truth, if I was in Nigeria, I'll be spending the same money on them. But the money we are talking we need to be spending home is we want to develop infrastructures. Okay? There's so much conversation to put in place. This is not the place to put it on there. But sorry to be a little bit tangential. Okay? But that is the truth, I believe. Thank you.
Thank you very much, sir. I would love to take more people, but I think we have to wrap it up here. This is, yes, I did say 3, but I may not get paid if I don't do this. So we need to wrap this up very quickly. I'd like to call on the MD, Mr. Kayode Akintemi of New Central Television, if he's around, to please give us his closing remarks so we can close. Unfortunately, we are way past the time.
But that New York and indeed United States of America is aware that we're doing something that is unusual. Somehow we didn't get the numbers, but we did get enough to make the room quite warm. So for those who have showed up today, we're most grateful for your time. People like Dr. Oby Ezekwesili, Honorable Dr. Abike Dabiri, and a host of others who joined us today, we're most grateful for their time. We definitely will be sending warm regards to the Speaker of the House of Representatives in Nigeria, Right Honorable Dr. Tajuddin Abbas. He is so desperately wanted to join because I spoke with his Chief of Staff and he expressed deep interest.
Recording in progress.
To be a part of this conversation because he's the one driving it in the National Assembly. But unfortunately, he couldn't make it because of state duties. And I do appreciate his interest in this particular topic. And we will definitely bring him on New Central when we get back to Nigeria. And all the other associations that have joined and those who don't even belong to any association that I've mentioned before, don't belong to any association at all. You're just Nigerians who are living in New York or who came into New York because of the United Nations General Assembly meetings. Thank you for coming. The message I'm leaving everybody watching or who came into New York because of the United Nations General Assembly meetings, thank you for coming. The message I'm leaving everybody watching. So the message I'm leaving is that Nigerians in diaspora, whether you're students, whether you're professionals, whether you're just a diaspora Nigerian, whoever you are, wherever you are in the world, this is a grand opportunity. We're not stopping here. A couple of people have spoken with me about coming to Canada with this. A few people have spoken to me that this should have been in the United Kingdom, that if Nigerians in America are not serious, it should have been with them in the UK, that they would have packed London, that even Downing Street will know the Nigerians in the UK are together. So London, we're coming. Canada, we're coming. Even as far as Australia, we are coming. There is so much to unpack. There's so much to talk about. We're keen for Nigerians in diaspora to continue to talk and help to drive our nation forward. Finally, I remember over 20 years ago, I was living in the United Kingdom and I had this special privilege and opportunity to be one of the professional Nigerians in diaspora that was invited for a breakfast meeting with Reverend Jesse Jackson. He stood in the hall and he held a microphone and moved around that hall in London. And he kept asking, what do you do? What do you do? What do you do? What do you do? And there was not one person in the room that didn't have a degree or didn't end up having one profession that was really outstanding or the other. At that time, I was working as a project manager in London on IT projects. So everybody in the room, and the room was packed because this was Reverend Jesse Jackson meeting with Nigerians in diaspora in London. He said, you are the Joseph of Nigeria and the African continent. And in fact, let me tell you, he said, you're the Joseph of the black race, because Nigeria is the largest black nation on earth. These were his words. But if you don't make that opportunity count, if you don't make all of this stand for something special because of the things you can do in Nigeria, then you would have failed. As a Nigerian, I am not failing. I have no intention of failing. As a Nigerian who is relocated back to Nigeria, living in Nigeria, myself, the likes of Yemi Adamalekun, the likes of Oby Ezekwesili and so on, we're not failing. We are pushing the boundary. We are speaking the truth to power. We're speaking as much as we possibly can. But it is in your hands, ladies and gentlemen, those of you who are in diaspora. If we set up an opportunity like this for you to come and be a part of it, and you don't seize it, then you have nobody to blame. You can't say the effort was not there. But this is just the beginning. This is the first in the many series of town hall meeting that News Central will be hosting for Nigerians in diaspora. So please, join hands with us going forward. Be a part of this movement. There is no end to this journey. It's a lifelong journey. When I am way too old to be a part of it, and you're way too old to be a part of it, we will hand over the baton to other Nigerians who will be in diaspora. There will always be Nigerians in diaspora. And we've got to gain that power wherever you are living, but also make sure that your children and your grandchildren and your great-grandchildren will be very, very proud of their heritage, and they'll be happy to go back to Nigeria if they so desire. That should be our ambition and our aspiration, so that they're not ashamed of their father or their grandfather's country, and they claim they're Americans or they're British and they don't ever want to associate with Nigeria. Let them be proud of it, even if they don't want to go back there. Thank you so much. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you so much, ladies and gentlemen. As I say on Instagram, a day has been had. On behalf of the entire crew of News Central Television, both in Lagos and here in New York, I would like to say a very big thank you. My name is Bernard Akede. Thank you for 2+ hours of your time. And for those watching us across the world, well, please just be on the lookout. This town hall may be coming to a town near you, or possibly your own town. Thank you so much.